socio-cultural resilience dalam menghadapi berbagai tantangan di hari ini global dan tentu saja lokal. Jadi boleh nanti bisa mendengarkan teman-temannya yang lain untuk bisa mengintensifkan diskusi masing-masing. So the way we are going to have our panel is to invite one by one, as scheduled here, and then after that we will have the question and answers by inviting every speakers to come forward here to start the discussion. Jadi bisa begitu, dan again I will invite one by one to come up here. You already have your PPT ya, sudah punya semua PPT-nya kan ya? Great. And then you will control your PPT from here, and we would like to have you here because it appears more excellent kan ya? Berdiri di sini enak kan? Jadi berdiri di sini presentasi satu persatu, waktunya adalah 15 menit maksimum. Ini latihan maksimumnya, nanti kami akan ingatkan setelah menit ke-10, tinggal 5 menit lagi I will remind you, and so you will also try to look at me throughout the time. Saya akan duduk di sini untuk mengingatkan waktu itu, dan segera berakhir di 2 menit terakhir saya akan tampilkan lagi that signs that you should conclude your speech. Jadi kalau tinggal 2 menit, apapun yang terjadi langsung bisa ke kesimpulan gitu kan ya. Don't worry, the discussion we will have the discussion afterward. Jadi kalau masih ada ide yang belum tersampaikan dalam presentase, we could bring it up again during the discussion. So, okay, let me first invite the first speaker, which is Jamaluddin. Oh, let me check it first to make sure that we have everyone. Jamaluddin is going to talk about relying on social capital, how older Indonesians perceive financial satisfaction in later life. Ini bicara tentang orang tua ya. Okay, Mas Jamaluddin, student of this building. Okay, great. And then the second, Devi Triwidya Sitaresmi. Mbak Devi ya. Mbak Devi is going to talk about a sense of community of traditional artisan. Tukang-tukang gitu ya. Pengrajin. As a cultural successor and realizing local economic resilience in Indonesia. These two are very related. Talking about money. Like the one that we put in our pocket ya. Alright. And then the third one would be Ahmad Habibullah. We have Ahmad Habibullah, who is also the student of this building, and he is going to talk about the effectiveness of the determining time of Baunyale events through the Gawe Sangkep approach in Central Lombok, West Nusa Tenggara Province. It is about cultural tradition practiced by people, communities in Lombok. And then the fourth would be Sri Astuti Ningsih from BPS. Thank you Mbak for coming and for participating, waiting for your speech, which would be about what drive violence against employed women in Indonesia. Analyzing determinants and consequences. Somewhat different, but I think we would find the connections of the ones that we are going to talk about, socio-cultural. And I think this would be also bridged by the fifth one, which is Arifah Rahmawati. Would be replaced by, you will mention your name later ya. Under the name of Arifah, let me check your name. I think you have it here. Mas Dodi Wibowo? No? Ahmad Jauhari? Okay, by Ahmad Jauhari. And Ahmad Jauhari is going to present about othering a practice of cultural violence toward women migrant workers from Indramayu of West Java. So we have these two also related to one another, and within that we will see how they relate to the economic issues migrant workers are about economic issues, yeah, but women which is related to that. So I think we will put together to find an underlying perspective that bring us together into discussion together. So without further ado, let me invite first Mas Jamaluddin, to give the presentation. And before that, let's give the applause for Mas Jamaluddin.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. When we picture our financial security in old age, what comes to our mind? Is it bank account or pension plan? What if for millions older adults, the most valuable asset for them, not financial, but social? This is our central research question. I'm Jamaluddin from Doctoral Population Studies. I am delighted to present relying on social capital, how older Indonesian perceive financial satisfaction in later life. A study I conducted with my supervisors, Professor Setiadi and Dr. Agus Joko Pitoyo. In this slide, I want to explain why we do this research. First, poverty rate of older adults still high, and 21.5% of older adults perceive their finance inadequate. Second, we can see the graph. This graph compares Indonesian and South Korea's. The key point is Indonesia is aging before we get rich. Our GDP is much lower than South Korea when we same aging population. And the third, how about social capital? We are the strongest in the world. We are number one in World Giving Index. But elderly participation in community declining. So we have high financial problem and declining social elderly participation. This leads us to our research objective. So based on these problems, our research has three objectives. First, we examine older adults' perception of financial adequacy. Second, we explore financial satisfaction by socioeconomic characteristics. And the third, we analyze relationship between social capital and financial satisfaction at individual and provincial levels. These objectives are guided by our theoretical background. Our objectives are based on two sets of theories. First, we use social capital theory. This theory helps us define our main independent variable, social capital. We look social participation, social network, trust, and tolerance. Second, we use aging theory. This theory helps us to understand why older adults participate or do not participate. The number one, disengagement theory. This theory explains older adults naturally withdraw from society. Number two is the opposite, activity theory. This theory explains older adults must stay active for their well-being. And number three, zero transcendence theory. It's different. It explains older adults select meaningful activities, and changing orientation from material things to transcendence value. So it's about quality, not about quantity activities. We use a secondary data set. We use 2021 happiness level measurement survey. The sample is large, over 14,000 observation. Our unit of analysis is older adults, 60 plus years old. Our main independent variable at two levels. At individual level, we use social participation, and at province level, we use social capital index. And our dependent variable is financial satisfaction. This is binary variable, 0 for unsatisfied and 1 for satisfied. We also include many control variables such as demographic, economic status, and healthy. So how do we analyze this data? First, we run the descriptive statistics to understand the sample. And our main analysis is multi-level binary logistic. Why we use this method? We use binary logistic because our dependent variable is binary. And we use multi-level because our data has two levels at individual and province level. This slide shows an interesting puzzle about financial well-being. First, we look at the chart on left. The respondents were asked, are your financial needs met? As you can see, 70% older adults said yes. So most of older adults feel their basic needs are covered. But when we ask different questions, are you satisfied with your finance? We can look at the right chart. 42% older adults said unsatisfied. This is the puzzle. 70% says their needs are met, but 42% are still not satisfied. Why? Because some people have insufficient income but feel satisfied. And the other people have sufficient income but feel dissatisfied. This clearly shows that objective income is not clear, full story. This leads to our main question, what is the role of social capital in this puzzle? So this slide helps answer our puzzle. This is the result of our multi-level binary logistic model. We want to know about the social capital. The social participation is significant to financial satisfaction, and at province level, social capital index also significant at 10%, p-value 0.1. This indicates that social capital is a significant factor related to financial satisfaction. As we expected, financial needs met and income are also important. This model gives us statistical relationship. Now let's visualize the province level finding on a map. This is bivariate map between financial unsatisfied and social capital. We can focus on two key colors, blue and orange. The dark blue is it means low social capital and high financial unsatisfied. And the good area is orange, dark orange, high social capital and low financial unsatisfied. As you can read here, high social capital and low elderly financial dissatisfaction is found in 6 provinces in central and eastern Indonesia. Now let's look at one more important variable, in our model, health insurance coverage. This is the same type of map. We can focus on the problem is dark blue areas, which means low health insurance coverage and high financial unsatisfied. Where do we see this problem? As the summary shows, this pattern is very strong in Western Indonesia, North Sumatra, South Sumatra, Bengkulu, Banten, West Java, except West Nusa Tenggara in Central Asia. This is our robustness check. We run the same model for 5 income difference, and we can see social participation wasn't significant in high income, but significant at lower and middle income. At province level, social capital index only significant at lower income group, and health insurance significant at high and low income group. In this discussion, we have 2 key points. First, we found that majority of older adults are satisfied, 58%. This helped answer our puzzle from the beginning. Why are they satisfied? This link back to our theory, zero transcendence theory, where older adults shifting their orientation from material things to transcendent value, so money is not everything. Second, our main findings, we found a consistent, significant association between social participation and financial satisfaction. How does this work? The key word is reciprocity. Social participation work as a buffer, helping with monetary and non-monetary needs. On this slide, we look at the other significant factor we found in our model. First, as we expected, income and financial adequacy are strongly related to satisfaction. This is the baseline. The literature confirms that financial strain reduces financial satisfaction. Second, pension savings positively significant with financial satisfaction. Pension act as formal buffer against poverty at the older adults. And the third, this is an interesting, give charity, money or goods have a higher likelihood to financial satisfied. This is related with our culture pagar mangkuk theory. Let's focus on province level. First, as our statistical model, province level social capital is significant. What is the mechanism? The literature suggests that high social capital creates more inclusive financial environment. This is a positive externality for everyone in that province. Second, we found that good areas, high social capital and low dissatisfaction were in central and eastern Indonesia. Why there? The theory suggests that in these areas, stronger social cohesion help to compensate for lagging economic condition. An area with low population density exhibit higher level of trust and social participation. And this is our final discussion point. We found that social capital is same for everyone. It was significant for the lower income groups, but absent in the highest income group. This tells us why social capital act as a buffer for financial adequacy, but for the rich it plays a minor role. But look at the health insurance. This was significant for almost all income groups. So this is our main conclusion. Social capital is a buffer for the poor, but health security is a universal need. This leads us to our final policy implication. There are 3 implications. First, for policymaker, should enable older adults to engage actively in community activities. not as a passive participant but as active contributors. Second, the government must expand the coverage and quality of health insurance should be a priority. And the third, in the long term, financial management education and the expansion of pension coverage are essential, not only formal workers but also for informal workers. These three actions can help improve financial satisfaction for all older Indonesians. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Really use your time very effectively, exactly 15 minutes. Thank you very much. And let's go to the next one, Mbak Devi, which will talk about the community, the something that the social capital that was discussed and how that community that Mbak Devi is going to talk about, relate to that topic, the community capital. All right, time is your Mbak, and also I will remind you, your time is 15 minutes.
Baik, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and my fellow participation of International Graduate Student and Scholar Conference. I'm Devi Triwidya Starsmi from doctoral student of Extension and Development Communication, Universitas Gadjah Mada. And today I'm delighted to share my research entitled Sense of Community of Traditional Artisans as a Cultural Successor and Releasing Local Economic Resilience in Indonesia. But before we get into the details, let's warm up the room with a light pantun in bahasa. Ke kampung tenun pergi berziarah, singgah sejenak melihat tenunan. Jati diri bangsa terasa indah bila terikat dalam rasa kebersamaan, sense of community. Okay, to begin, let's us look at the context of this research. Okay. Cultural tourism plays a vital role in cultural sustainable development, especially in heritage rich such as in Indonesia. And nowadays, our tourism ministry has more focus on the culture and nature tourism. But as we know, cultural tourism, it depends on the internal social dynamics, particularly sense of community among the artisans. And recently, many cultural tourism have faced decline the social engagement and decreasing the number of the regeneration continuously day by day. And the same thing also happened in our location study. The name is Weaving Village, Kampung Tenun, in East Kalimantan, Indonesia. And in 2016, the traditional skill and craft of Samarinda woven fabric were registered as Indonesian intangible cultural heritage. So because this is an intangible object, so this research focused more to the artisan as the main actor to sustainable the culture continuously. But nonetheless, we as a researcher thinking about it is still relevant if the name is Weaving Village because the regeneration decreasing day by day. Okay, this is the history of Weaving Village. It began in 2007 when the immigrant from Sulawesi Island came and settled along to the Mahakam River, and they are bringing the weaving skill traditional. And it continues to grow, and finally in 2012, the local government declared their Weaving Village become the tourism destination in Samarinda. And these are some products of the woven fabric. This is the activity. And besides, they produce also a big product in there. And this is the administration map of the location Weaving Village. We can see that the Weaving Village are located directly along the Mahakam River. This is the largest and famous one river in East Kalimantan. And next to the Weaving Village, there is Masjid Subdistrict, Kelurahan Masjid. And there is an oldest and legendary mosque in there. The name is Sirotol Mustaqim Masjid. So because there are so many historical places in there, then the local government planned that the area become to the cultural and religious destination area. And this is the profile of Weaving Village artisan. The artisan community in Weaving Village consists of bead and woven fabric producer. And the artisan at around 30 until 50 are dominant in this sector with high experience and high productivity. And the younger artisan below 30 are few in number, and it is showing the regeneration challenges. Meanwhile, the senior artisan over 50 years old they play a vital role in transmitting the traditional knowledge. And this is the research variable in this study. The first, of course, about the sense of community. Sense of community is a refer to interaction among the artisans that create commitment to remain together. And there are four aspects in there. The first is membership, group influence, and need fulfillment, and the last is emotional linkage. And the second variable is sustainable cultural tourism. Sustainable cultural tourism in this context is referred to action taken by the artisans, not only for the economic value, but they are also protecting and remaining the cultural and traditional value. Okay, this is the data and methods. This study adopted quantitative research involving around 87 artisans, and the questionnaire obtained around 19 Likert scale items to calculate the proportion of the sense of community. And the questionnaire also consists of the social interaction question. It will be used to the social network analysis. And then we also use the multiple linear regression to see the relationship between the sense of community and sustainable cultural tourism. And the last, to complete all, we use the mediation analysis process model using SPSS tools. Okay, this is the result of the proportion analysis of sense of community. We can see that most artisans have the high sense of community. It is reflecting that they have strong social cohesion, and the membership is the highest score in sense of community. And this is the result of social network analysis. Based on the analysis, we can get the information that the density network score is around 0.05, and it is a low category. And overall, the degree score for three top figure in network also in the low category. And there's still a fragment in the social network. It is indicates that the interaction among the artisan is uneven. And next we go to the result of multiple linear regression. And we can see if only emotional linkage is significant to the cultural sustainable tourism. And how about the other not significant aspect? For this, we turn to the mediation analysis. Okay, this is the last analysis in this study, and based on the slide, membership, group influence, need fulfillment will be significant to the sustainable cultural tourism when they prove the emotional linkage as the mediator. Okay, this is the conceptual and practical implication. For theoretical, emotional linkage is a critical pathway to linking as bridging the sense community to the sustainable cultural tourism. And particularly, policy intervention should be directed at programs that strengthen emotional bonds. Okay, the last. After all these findings set the stage for our conclusion today, it's still different between cognitive and structural in social capital. The artisan feels they have strong sense of community, but when it brings to the network structure, it's not strong enough and still have the fragment in there. And only emotional linkage is the key factor as the mediator between sense community to shaping the sustainable cultural tourism in Samarinda. Okay, that's concludes of my presentation today. But as a closing, allow me to short pontificate. Okay. benang ditenun di tepi sungai, warna berpadu indah berjati. Warisan budaya janganlah usai, mari kita jaga sepenuh hati. Terima kasih. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Devi, very much. Thank you very much. You use your time even shorter than you are supposed to spend, but very good. You save time, and then so we have time for other to speak more, to have the discussion. So we see the relationship, and I think you can both talk. Like if you need to make the elders, to be active in community, artisan is a one way. Cultural tourism is one way to establish or to increase the sense of community for the financial satisfaction and otherwise. So thank you very much. And now we move to the Mas Ahmad Habibullah. Ahmad Habibullah would be talking about the effectiveness of determining time. I think this is in relation to climate change, the environmental crisis that has caused the climate change that we cannot predict. So this is a practice in Sumba, but we are going to hear what is the challenge that they are facing in terms of determining the time, what to do in terms of time frames that they have. All right, Mas Ahmad Habibullah, times is yours, and also you have 15 minutes to use. Tepuk tangan lagi dong untuk Mas Habibullah.
Excuse me, let me take water for a second, please. First of all, to be honest, I cannot give a pantun like the second speaker. And secondly, I really sorry if my voice is not clear enough. I'm trying my best. And the third one, I don't want to blame the weather about my condition because it's my mistake. I didn't wear a raincoat when I came here 2 or 3 days ago. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my great honor to present what I had done in Lombok, West Nusa Tenggara Province. If you heard about Lombok, I think the first in your mind is tourism sector, Mandalika circuit, and what else? Beaches, and something kinds of traditional hosts like sadar and so on. But here, I will present about what just happened during 9 years exactly in agriculture, because most of people in Lombok are farmer, and this is the problem in Lombok. The income to produce of rice in every year was fluctuated. So here, the effectiveness of determining time of Baunali even through the Gawe Sangkap approach in central Lombok, West Nusa Tenggara. Ladies and gentlemen, West Nusa Tenggara Barat, West Nusa Tenggara have 2 big islands. It is Sumbawa and Lombok. And here I am specifically want to talk about Lombok. And if we see about the potential of West Nusa Tenggara, there are 3 potential. The first one is natural resources. The natural resources, there is gold mining, it is in Sumbawa. And now at 2000, it was claimed by Aman Mineral. And before, it was Numa Nusa Tenggara. And the natural resources, exactly in gold mining, is located in Sumbawa. And the other one is in Lombok, but it's not as large in Sumbawa. And the second one is agriculture, and the third one, art and social culture. Why I make it different size? Because in Lombok, to potential, this one has a very high relation. Why? Lombok society or has very high about their tribes. So whenever they want to plan something, whenever they want to start, whenever they want to help, they very focus on their culture, their tribes. So that's why agriculture also has a relation with art and social culture. If we see Sasak tribes, Gawe Sangkep and Baunyale, this one is close to what I called calendar road. In Lombok or Sasak tribes have their own calendar. It's not Hijriya calendar or Masehi calendar. It's the same as Java calendar, but how they account how many days in a month, it's very, very tricky. So that's why a lot of people in Sasak tribe didn't know how to account it. And until nowadays, I don't find the calendar will be produced by the government and even in Central Lombok or the governor in the West Nusa Tenggara province, because this one has very much debate when to say that in this month there will be 30 days or 30 or 29. This one, the Gawe Sangkep is a place to discuss about when the time or how many days in that time in months in that calendar. And the Gawe Sangkep is held once a year. Ladies and gentlemen, Baunyale is one of the national program. If we look at the internet, Baunyale is one of very familiar programs in Central Lombok. It's a catching seaworm once a year. And most of people in Central Lombok went to beach. It is in Kuta. It's very close to Mandalika Circuit and Selong Belanak. They went to at night and come back to at the morning to catch that seaworm. But the amazing thing is the seaworm just came up once a year. That's why the Gawe Sangkep very neat and has to very good enough to account when the seaworm come out. So Sasak tribes have as we know, if people in Sasak tribe, there is strata social. There are 4 strata social. The first is Raden. The second one is Bape. The third one is Bulu Ketujur, and the last one is Panjak. These strata social have influence, and the highest one is Raden. Raden is the people who attend the Gawe Sangkep. That's we find in the reality when the Gawe Sangkep done. So there is a problem is that I want to find is how the implementation of Gawe Sangkep for that's carried out by the government to determine the time of Baunyali even in central Lombok. Ladies and gentlemen, after I find that the social problems, they are exactly has been researched by another researcher. They are Bakri, Ismail, Hatima, Sulaiman, and Anam, and Wiranata also. They discuss about how the implementation of reconciliation, cultural reconciliation, to make peace in their location. Exactly, for example, Bakri take research in Ambon when the conflict in Poso in 2000. So the research method that I use is using qualitative research, which is will be analyzed, and ethnography approach. I think with this approach, ethnography approach will be really helpful for my research. I can I feel how they do the Gawe Sangkap, and I know what happened in the area. And the located of this research is exactly in central Lombok, not only a whole of Lombok, because the Sasak tribe focus on central Lombok. So this research using cultural reconciliation concept. Now let's get to the result. The reward calendar, ladies and gentlemen, is almost done in one district among 12 districts. During the Gawe Sangkap has held from many times, every year, it's never held in other district. It's always done in the Pujut district, and where the Gawe Sangkap is promoted by the government. And also, like I told you before, that Sasak tribe is only present by people from Raden, not from Bapa, or what I told you, the third one, and the fourth one. The next one is the people that present the Gawe Sangkap is from Praya district and Pujut district. And the next one, the 10th district, it's not attending. Why? Because the government, most of government from central Lombok come from Praya district and also Pujut district. So the reward calendar is conducted or promoted by most of people from Praya district and Pujut district. That's why I got from Badan Pusat Statistik in 9 years, but I'm sorry, in 2017 I didn't get the data. In 9 years, the total produce of rice are fluctuated. Because of why? People, like I told you before, that not all people know how to read the reward calendar. The reward calendar is used to, when people want to plant rice, they use reward calendar. But in reality, not a lot of people, not all people know how to read the reward calendar. That's why the Gawe Sangkap is the main point for people who don't know when the reward calendar time. So, Central Lombok has 90,000 hectares, and the other side is Lombok have 82,000 hectares, but the total produce is higher. East Lombok has higher produce, yes sir, than Central Lombok. The Central Lombok, until now, has a very fluctuated produce of rice. the bawah nyale event that, like I've told you before, the impact of bawah nyale that have been promoted by the government from the Gawe Sangka, not only impactful for people who want to catch nyale in the beach, but also to the farmer. They will be tricky, they will be confused when they want to plant the rice. If they don't follow the calendar that has been announced by the government from the Gawe Sangka, they don't know when the calendar, the time, the real time. But in reality, after they plant their rice, sometimes they crop fail. So that's why it happened in the central Lombok. Even they have a more larger land, 90,000, between 82,000. If we divide it from East Lombok, the land, but the account, the produce of rice is very low than the East Lombok, which is East Lombok has lower land, larger. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Gawe Sangka has very impactful for farmer and also for local people who want to attending bawah nyale, because Gawe Sangka has impactful also for the calendar that now had been done. It cannot be produced by the government in Central Lombok especially, and for the governor of West Nusa Tenggara Province. Okay, that's all from me. I think because the time is gone. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mas Ahmad Habibullah. And let's just move forward and come to Mbak Sri Artuti Ningsih. And she's going to talk about what drives violence against women, employed women especially, in Indonesia, analyzing determinants and consequences. Time is yours, Mbak.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sri Astuti from Central Bureau of Statistics Indonesia, and together with my colleague Suraya Mumtaz there, we pleased here to present our study about what drives violence against working women in Indonesia. Well, this study used findings from 2022 National Women's Life Experience Survey. And this study begin with a paradox. Although the empowerment is expected to enhance safety and empower women, in Indonesia we found the opposite. When woman earn her own income, she gain power and protections. When a woman can contribute to her family, she should feel more safety. But the data tell different stories. In Indonesia, working women are more likely to have experienced violence, especially from their intimate partner. And then the key questions that guide us in this research was, why does empowerment not always guarantee safety? I would like to start with some context here. The global data show that 1 in 3 women experience violence once in her lifetime. And most of them committed by their intimate partner. It means around 736 million women worldwide ever experience this violence, according to United Nations. And from the survey, the data show that in Indonesia, 1 in 4 women aged 15 to 16 also experience sexual or physical violence, either from their partner or someone else. And when we look more closely about this data, when we compare among employed women, the percentage of women that experience violence is 25% higher than among unemployed women. So this is show us that financial independence in here is not giving guarantee to women to feel more safety in here. So from this paradox that we want to unpack in this research. To understand this, we use 2 theories in here. The first one is about the male backlash theory by Good. In this theory, suggests that women more economic independent, men may feel that their traditional roles as a provider or decision maker in the household is being threatened. So some of their reactions is use violence to reassert controls and dominance in the household. And then the opposite is about the household bargaining models by San. In here, San suggests that women income can give them greater power to bargain, even to leave their abusive partner or even negotiate better treatment. And then to analyze this, we utilize 2024 National Women Life Experience Survey that cover around 178 districts and cities around Indonesia. And today we would like to focus only on partner women who were employed. And this variable that we use here, the dependent variable is about the IPV, of course. And then the independent variable here, we divide it into 3 groups. The first group about the individual characteristic of the woman. The second group is about the household and marital characteristics. And then the last group of variables that we use here is about the partner characteristics. And to analyze this, because of the characteristic of the dependent variable, we use a binary regressions model to analyze further about inferential analysis. So what we find here, first of all, the regressions model show that the regressions fit the data well for the Hosmer-Lemshow task that show us the significant value about 0.8. And 9 out of 14 variables here is found statistically significant here. I would like to start with the individual characteristic first. First is about age. Additional age, years of age of the women decrease the likelihood of being violent about 2%. And then the second, women who work in informal sector have higher risk to get violence, about 15%. It also happened in the women who married before the legal age. It's about 14% higher. And then the interesting things here is about the partner characteristics that we found here the most strong predictors. We can see that when women have unemployed partners, the likelihood is about 42% higher. And when women have a partner who consume alcohol, the risk is 24% higher. And the third is when women have a partner who has a history of fighting, the likelihood of getting violence is 3.5 times higher. So it's very interesting in here. It's also happened when you have a partner who have a story of infidelity. The risk is rise about 4.6 times. And the last variable that's significant in here is about the experience of physical abuse in the child. When the partner has a physical abuse story, the likelihood is about 3.7 times. And then another interesting finding in here is that the dowry in Indonesia have a positive relationship. That means in some research, they found that the dowry is burden for men to accomplish this. But in Indonesia, sometimes it means respect to the woman. And then what happened to the survivor? Beyond the physical harm, the intimate violence has a served psychological impact. Among the women or among the survivors, we can see that 30% often feel anxiety. And then around 31% too, they feel or reported restlessness. And 22% feel persistent sadness. And 8% of them reported suicidal thought. So, ladies and gentlemen, so the impact of violence is not only about the emotionals, but also existentials. It means that the effect of this violence is give women another perspective of they see themselves or see the meaning of their lives in here. And then in Indonesia, how do the survivors cope? Unfortunately, only few of them reported their experience to the formal sector, less than 1% of them. And most common place that they visit is hospital, police, or community, and religious leader. Because of what? Because of the stigma, shame, trust. So this is tell us, for many women, violence remains a silent pain, unspoken and hidden. And institutional support is far more accessible in here. So what we can do, first of all, of course, the government should strengthen and decentralize IPV service, especially in rural areas. The second, we can equip community and religious leaders with training to make them a proper referrals. It means they can fill the gap between the formal and informal support about the violence. And then the third, conduct nationwide education campaign to reduce stigma about the survival of the violence. And then finally, of course, the government should clear the root problems in here, the partner characteristic problem, unemployment, consumes alcohol behavior. And then to conclude that, violence against employed women not only about economic issues, but also it's related to power, behavior, and social norms. And economic empowerment itself is not enough, but without protections, it only can give women more exposed. So true protections in here require transformations. Transformation for what? Of course, of relationships, community, and institutions in Indonesia. So they can only translated empowerment to genuine safety, genuine well-being for all women in Indonesia. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mbak Sri. That is very great information, great data, good presentation. I think that would make us aware about the situation of what we are dealing with in our society, especially for women. We'll come to discuss that, and I think some information about women will be also shared by Mas Ahmad Jauhari, othering a practice of cultural violence toward women, migrant workers from Indramayu. Times is yours, Mas Ahmad. Tepuk tangan lagi dong.
Okay, check. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ahmad Jauhari. We conducted this research with our leader, Dr. Arifah Ramawati, and Mr. Dodi Wibowo, the chief of this seminar. And then we also have the other member student, Nobertus Mario Baskoro. We also talk about violence, just like the last presenter, but this violence also towards women, but this violence happens outside Indonesia, in other countries, while they are working. Wait. Okay. The introduction or the background is we find that the Indonesian migrant workers, or PMI in Indonesian phrase, PMI is the pillar of economy with their remittance or exchange foreign reaching more than 200 trillion per year, and then the government also targeted the exceeding of the amount, becoming more than 400 trillion in foreign exchange. But there is also the increasing about the number of female workers based on the data from BP2MI, the formal institution that. The formal institution about migrant worker. The data 2024 said that there is an increasing. Most of migrant workers are women, 67.5%. This we can see that this is a feminization of migrant workers. So when we talk about this, there is a potential. There is a condition where there is something like, yes, othering or demeaning attitudes toward them that ironically creates cultural violence. And then the situation, the condition is discussed. The research is conducted in Indramayu Regency, where the data BP2MI said that Indramayu is the largest concentration of PMI, and the second is Lombok, is Lombok. And then the problem we are trying to do in this research is how is the construction of othering, what kind of othering, how the othering constructed for female migrant workers, especially where they work, and then in their place of origin, related to their relation with the society or the family, their neighborhood. And then the research questions is trying to find the power relations between the female migrant workers with their agents and employers abroad, and then how the identity construction that they understand about them, and then what forms of knowledge and technology inequality, there is an equality that happens to them between female workers and their employers abroad. Okay, some SDGs points that deals with this research are first poverty, and then well-being, gender equality, of course, inequalities, and the justice and of course about the economic growth, about how they try to get the economic resource. Okay, some theoretical framework. The theoretical framework that we use in this research is first othering, the process that enables or ironically create the marginalization and perpetuation of inequality among groups. The forms is in 3 dimensions. First, unequal power, and then the identities, construction identities that is devalued, and then inequality about the knowledge and technology, the common knowledge and technology. And then there is cultural violence. We also have the definition that it legitimates the direct or indirect violence, and then it is triggered by cultural differentiation. As we know that the migrant workers go there, they have different cultural, different identity, age, social status, and then etc. The research methodology, we interview 5 women migrant workers from Indramayu who had worked more than 5 years, and they decided not to come back because of their age and then their physical ability. And then, you know, when we do this interview, they are almost 50 years old. Only one who almost 40 years old. We see that they work as domestic worker in Saudi Arabia, in Kuwait, in Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, and etc. And then we also do focus group discussion with non-migrant worker women, though some of them are ex-migrant worker. The participants are the local institution, created by local institution, Keluarga Berencana, PKK, and the local institution of national institution, Aisyah Paroh Muhammadiyah in Indramayu. And then this summary of research results that there are 3 othering dimensions that actually these 3 dimensions interfere or has a relation each other. First, about unequal power relations, that the female migrant worker seen as not as the subject or as the human, as the woman, independent woman, but as the good service. So this trade is seen they are traded between agents and employers. Let's say that they have no voice, they have no power to talk about the contract, to talk about the salary, to talk about where they want to work. We here in Indonesia, we can choose which institution that I want to apply, which factory, which place, but they cannot do that. And then they also are not involved in contract negotiations, talking about contract. And then they are also seen as the property by the employers. There is a concept, budak maybe in their culture, that when someone work with us, you are mine. There is some concept. And then the second dimension is identity construction. There is the meaning. The first, there is, in my opinion, it is unique. They see themselves as queen, but babu but queen. You know, babu is a local phrase that means a maid or housemaid. But they feel that they are queen because they live they sleep in a big bedroom. There is an air conditioner, there is a TV, but they're becoming the housemaid. And then they think that they are okay if they are humiliated because of their work, but as long as they are becoming rich, or we can say newly rich people with some characteristics, their house is new, and then they can rebuild their house. The wall is using ceramic and etc. They become rich, and that's okay. That's okay for them. They think that's okay. And then, as a woman, some of them, maybe most of them, they are mother actually, or they are wife of a husband. But when they go abroad to work and then they come back, they think that they feel like they become a failed woman, and failed mother because they cannot be the fully mother for their 5-year-old son, 5-year-old daughter. They cannot see the golden age of their daughter. There is the second othering dimension. And then the last othering dimension is about the dominance of knowledge and technology. As I said, that they cannot choose where to work because they do not have any knowledge. They are never taught about the condition abroad. Not like us that learn here that the other countries has the other cultural, other characteristic. They don't have that knowledge. And then they also, when they work there, they are becoming isolated because they cannot, they cannot talk to the neighbor, they cannot talk to the female worker or someone neighborhood around their house where they work. And then there is also social dependency where they cannot leave the house unless they are with the employer. For example, go to the market or go to any place for vacancy, for holiday. They only can do it with their employer. These are some quotation that we talk about. And then they say there is a contract, but they cannot talk about it. They only get from their agent and employer. The agent gave them. The agent discussed with the employer, and the agent gave them the contract. This is the contract. If you want to work here, you'll get this salary, and you work for 2 years. That's all. And then this is the dimension of identity construction. They get the more and more burden, though they have the capability in economic, they become rich, but they still have the burden when they come back. For example, the second quotation, it is said that when I go there, when I went working and then come back, my neighbor still said that when will you get married, and then when you get a son or daughter. And then the example or the quotation about this dimension, that there is no holiday, day off, or etc. at weekends, and then they don't have the knowledge that it needs. Okay, and the conclusion, why they become a migrant worker, because some condition, for example, poverty, low welfare, and then the limited job opportunities in the city, in Indonesia, or in the rural area. The three dimensions intersect and collectively create a demanding construction, and then it is also isolates them. The condition of their work isolates them, and then they cannot do whatever we can do here. And then the recommendation from this research, the first recommendation is research recommendation. We can analyze another othering that potentially happened to male migrant workers, husband whose wife becoming migrant workers, and children whose mother becoming migrant workers. The other othering potentially happen. And then the recommendation for the migrant workers, the government, especially village government, rural government, can involve them in the program deliberations and etc. And this some documentations of FGD we do with some group of non-migrant workers, though some of them are ex-migrant workers. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mas Ahmad Jauhari. With that, I would like to invite everyone, the speakers, to come up here. Choose which chairs you like to sit. Five speakers to come up. We will have about 20 minutes, 15 minutes for discussion, question and answer. Please, Mas Jauhari, Mbak Devi, Mas Ahmad, Mas Jamaluddin, Mbak Asti. Okay. So what is very interesting to me, if we see one presentation from other perspective, like if I see, for example, the migrant workers that we just hear from Mas Ahmad Johari, if I see it from the perspective of Mbak Asti, that's what we could expect, violence against women, because they are under the power relations from the time they plan to work abroad. No power, they carry with them to go to other places. And if I see Mbak Asti's presentation from the perspective of Mbak Devi, the artisan, even informal workers, violence is also happening in informal workers. What would happen to the artisan? The informal workers. No security, so more potential, more risk, they would experience. But then if I use that, see that presentation from Mas Ahmad Habibullah from Lombok perspective, probably it's better because you're working, you're artisan. Here in Lombok, we don't even predict the climate change, and so not much to do. And if we see that perspective from your perspective, from financial satisfactions, financial income, financial support, financial security doesn't really guarantee the satisfaction of everyone. So probably living in Lombok could still offer a social satisfaction, human satisfaction, even though we don't have money. So I would like to see that discussion among these presenters, speakers, to see that they are basically interrelated. And I think it's good to see knowledge production, to engage one another. So I would invite anyone who is interested to raise questions. You could also offer a new perspective. Please. Thank you very much. And you can mention your name, you introduce yourself.
Sure. My name is Bandana Saini. I'm from the University of Sydney in Australia. I have a question for Dr. Johari. I think you talked about migrant women from Indonesia going overseas to work and this whole phenomena of othering. I wonder if you've compared this with migrant women from many other South Asian countries that travel to the Middle East and other places to work, whether their experience is any different, and if it's the same, what have the other governments done to address this?
Other governments, including the Indonesian government?
Yeah, not India, it could be India,
Could be India, yeah.
Pakistan, government.
Right, if you have some comparison or that. I would like to have one more. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Azwar Surahman from Population Study of UGM. My question is mainly for the first speaker, but if my question is relevant to the other speakers, you may to respond also. My question is, if I'm not mistaken, that since the data of your research was happened in pandemic era, did you explore or link your findings with the COVID-19 shock momentum? If so, to what extent did the COVID-19 shock influence the social capital of the elderly, and did this subsequently affect in their financial satisfaction? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much, and thank you for offering that question to other speakers. And so I think we could come to that, and that's the way we are going to use our time, the 10 minutes left. So Mas Johari, we'll start with you. If you have some comparison studies.
Okay, thank you for the question. Very nice question. do we compare to other countries the condition of migrant workers? Actually, we try to get some data to find out how's the condition of other country, but not the countries that you have mentioned. We see the country Philippines, for example. We see that the remittance of Philippines is higher than Indonesia, because we see that they are skilled workers, not that we do in this research that most of us are domestic workers. So we conclude that maybe the other countries have also some this condition, have many migrant workers, but maybe the other conditions they try to try to make the workers become have more skill, not to send the unskilled labor. So yeah, and in Indonesia, since 1990s, the government of Indonesia see that the migrant workers is a potential for remittance, and then since 1990s try to promote the potential for people in Indonesia. But the law, the specific law, the second highest law in Indonesia, it was created in 2017. It is more than 20 years. Actually, it is ironic because since 1990s, the specific law is 2017. I forgot the number of the law. But what we try to do in our recommendation is the government try to implement fully the law, especially the local government. We see that the local government has the potential to educate them, to see their real condition. If their wife go abroad, there must be the problem in their family. So the program of the local government can afford the husband, can afford the children, and etc. If the husband go abroad, there must be the problem to the family. So the program can afford the wife in Indonesia and then the children. That is what we see, what the government have done about this condition. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Mbak Asti, if you can relate a little to that, just for you, and also would also like a closing remark for you, the idea or the practice of othering against women. So in your presentation here, you talk about the many factors, but does othering, the structure that we have that others women, would be also like among the factor, the increased violence against them, like what we learn theory that he's using because of the othering of women.
Well, actually, on this research, we also looking about the effect of the sectors where women works, and it also found that when women forcibly work in informal worker, it means that they don't have something like choice. It means that when something like maid, something like when we call it blue collar or white collars, they didn't have choice. So the high risk of violence among this kind of women also, I think, what happened not only for Indonesia, only Indonesian women who work in Indonesia, but also who work abroad in here, like the context that bring before. So in here, I want to highlight that in Indonesia, a lot of women didn't have a lot of choice to what work that she do, like us in here. So they forced to join the informal sectors because of their household cannot get enough money to survive. And then about the pandemic that happened in Indonesia, I also have a write about the informal sectors that rise in the pandemic crisis that also affect that woman a lot of work in informal sector on that period. So it may imply that on that period also that women can have no choice to what work they can do, and even maybe we can deeply search what happened about the violence itself, but in that period a lot of women entered the informal sector, especially in the pandemic.
Thank you very much, and that leads to Mas Jamaluddin. So Mas Jamaluddin, if you could give the answer response to that in 1 minute, and then the others will be followed by Ahmad, Habibullah, and then Mbak Devi. And so we would good enough time, to conclude our panel. Okay. Please, Mas Jamaluddin.
Thank you for the question. This study didn't explore COVID-19 situation, but we use data 2021. So there are influence of COVID situation, but in the future research, we can compare pre-situation at the COVID and pasca COVID-19. But intuitively, financial satisfaction tend to decline because COVID situation, high unemployment, but it can boost from social capital, tend to hike form of social capital, boost the financial unsatisfied.
Very good, thank you very much. Very clear. And Mas Ahmad Habibullah, if you could say something on pandemic in relation to the climate change in Lombok.
Yeah. If we see about the data that I show you in the present, the PPT, there is a significant fall down about the agriculture production. If we see in 2018, there are 353,000 tons of rice production, but it's a significant decrease, become 297,000 tons at the years of COVID. And then after 20 and 22, it's increased very high. It is 357,000 tons. And if we see about this one, it's not only because of what we call before that the road calendar, but it's also there is influence about the COVID, because the COVID may not people, okay, may not people, or doesn't allow people to hold parties. That's why Baunyale event is attended by 1,000 people, and people who doesn't know how to read the calendar, how to plan, they cannot account what time they should plan because there is no activities about the Baunyale event. That's what happened after they plan it. There is scope culture, scope failure. So there is a decrease, height very high, and after COVID is increase highly. Thank you.
Thank you. Please, Mbak Devi.
Okay, thank you for the question. But if we talk about the weaving products, not only in pandemic era, but in the normal era, there's still many problems because there's regeneration. And then in normal era, request for the woven product also decreasing because the price is too high. And then recently, many weaving product produced by made from the factory, and it's the cheapest price. So I think it's in weaving field. In my case, it depends on the pandemic or normal era, but it's about the regeneration, the actor decreasing continuously. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think to conclude, I don't have things to conclude as a conclusion for them, but what I can highlight, at least what I can learn from them is that among the things to highlight that I learned from this is that the idea of communality, the idea of social capital, the idea of relationship working together is one of the things being highlighted in this. It is important. That doesn't mean that financial issues are not important, but social capital is important to work along with that. And that I think also would also contribute to the idea or the issues of gender. Financial security doesn't guarantee not only satisfaction but even security. That could also even contribute to the high risk of violence that women could experience. And with that idea, I think like coming back to the sense of community, othering is something to respond, receiving anyone to have dignity, women, men, children, elderly, and everyone, who have dignity is what I think that we could direct our sense of community, communalism, and social capital. Thank you very much for sharing different things, but I think to me they are still related. And also thank you very much for your attention to this. And I think we can conclude our panel for that with applause to these 5 speakers. Thank you again very much. And with that, I would bring back to we don't have MC. And so I think we conclude the panel and then looking forward to the second or the next session. Again, thank you very much. So between now and then the next panel is break. Coffee break. Coffee break means drinking coffee. So you have coffee outside. Oh, great. All right. There would be, so that would be the panel, the current panel. Panel of coffee, tea, jamu, and any drinking. So please enjoy the break and then see you again in the next panel.
You can hear, or you can dance. You can dance around pop star.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Maybe you can talk maybe here as well, perhaps.
Yeah, I can see fairly clear. Yeah. Be careful. I'm just testing. Yeah.
I know you're strong.
No. It's good I find now. If I had laptop, it could be a bit dangerous. Yeah.
Bener, ini mau jalan gini di sini. Satu orang kok. Akhirnya gitu ya. Ini dia aman nggak?
ketemu tadi? Enggak ke sana enggak?
Nanti ke sini.
Sini aja.
Punya Mas.
konsorsium kan punya ulang tahun. Itu aja sudah senior satu waktu itu. Sekarang udah sekarang ini paling tertib.
Bagaimana?
Paling tertib.
Ladies and gentlemen, maybe have your attention, please. For all participants who are still outside, we inform you that our panel discussion for the second panel, we will commence in 5 minutes. So please, everybody who's still outside, please come inside and please be seated. Bapak Ibu hadirin yang berbahagia, para peserta IGSSCI yang masih berada di luar ruangan, kami mohon perhatiannya untuk diskusi panel kedua akan kita mulai kurang lebih 5 menit lagi. Bagi Anda yang masih berada di luar dan sudah selesai menikmati coffee break, dimohon untuk memasuki tempat acara. Sekali lagi kami informasikan kepada Anda, acara akan kita mulai kurang lebih 5 menit lagi. Masih ada waktu bagi Bapak Ibu untuk menikmati coffee break. Namun bagi Anda yang sudah selesai, dipersilahkan untuk dapat kembali ke ruangan dan kami persilahkan untuk duduk. Thank you for your attention. Ladies and gentlemen, participants, welcome back to auditorium, and we hope you had a productive and inspiring time during the parallel sessions. This afternoon, we will continue with panel 2 with the theme Governance, Policies and Ethical Frameworks. And in this session, our distinguished speaker will share their perspective on how governance, policies, and ethical framework play crucial roles in building resilience and achieving sustainable peace. And to lead this session, we are honored to introduce our moderator who will guide us through the presentations and discussion. He is a lecturer at Department of International Relations, Universitas Gadjah Mada, and also teach in the master's program in Peace and Conflict Resolution. He earned his PhD in Peace and Conflict Studies from the University of Otago, New Zealand, and holds a master's degree in Peace Education from the United Nations University for Peace in Costa Rica. Beyond that, he has extensive experience in peace education, conflict transformation, and youth empowerment. He has worked with various international and national organizations, including UNICEF, Save the Children, and the Center for Peace and Conflict Studies in Cambodia. Currently, he serves as the editor-in-chief of Peace Review, a journal of social justice published by Taylor and Francis in the United Kingdom. He also actively publishes his work in international academic journals in the field of peace studies and communication, including those published by Taylor and Francis and Willie, with his rich academic background and practical experience in peace building, he will be guiding today's discussion on governance, policies, and ethical frameworks. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Dodi Wibowo, PhD.
Hello, good afternoon. Okay, this afternoon I will test. Okay, this afternoon I would like to invite all the four. Okay, I think this is working. So I would like to invite all the main speakers to come to the stage. First, I would like to invite Professor Tomoko Tamari, and then Dr. Julia Sugandi, Professor Kamaruzaman Askandar, and yeah, we already have the speaker here, Dr. Chris Elisara. Yeah. Yeah. So this is the afternoon session. Usually it's kind of dangerous because we already filled our tummy with food. And so, but I think we will have a very interesting discussion talking about, again, governance, policies, and ethical framework. This is, regarding the theme of our conference today, that it is difficult not talking about making the peaceful society or reaching the sustainable peace without talking about the governance, about policies that makes all the efforts to build the sustainable peace it is doable. But also we also need to remember that everything should be done into ethical framework as well. So without further ado, we will have a 20 minutes presentation from each of the main speakers, and we will start with Professor Tomoko Tamari. And yeah, I will just read a little bit about the bio of Professor Tomoko Tamari. Wait. Okay. Professor Tomoko Tamari is a reader at Goldsmiths, University of London. She is managing editor of Body and Society. What's that? Okay, I continue, and most recent interests are discussed in her edited collection, Human Perception and Digital Information Technologies, to be published in 2024. And she's currently working on the following areas: body image and technology, human perception and the moving image, AI and contemporary visual art, AI and human knowledge formation. Okay, Professor Tomoko, time is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me today, and I'm very honored to have a good chance to talk my paper today. I don't have a lot of time, but it goes through quite a lot, so therefore, let's get started. Title today, Affect Algorithm and Human Perception, Statistics in Digital and Analog Animation. And animation here means not Japanese anime or not Japanese anime, moving image. So in my talk, I'd like to consider potential implications of human perception in advanced digital information technology and discuss the expansion of digital computer technology and its integration with human life by analyzing the recursive dynamism of human perception and computer-generated imagery. So I especially focusing on human perception, the moving image, by considering the role of affect, the affective sensory complex, which people simply feel but find it difficult to articulate in languages. So to do this, I'd like to examine the differences between digital aesthetics created by computer animation and analog aesthetics in hand-drawn animation. So both are different way to provide representation of reality. A traditional animation is usually drawn on the cell by hand and set the final image cells under the camera and shoot a whole sequence of frames. The digital computer-generated imagery has no substantial form in the real world, rely on pixels and mathematical formulas for their existence. So all these processes are carried out within the computer. So, doesn't go? Next one. Right. So, yeah. So this is sort of my introduction topics and the focus I'm just talked now. The next one. Right. So Kostas Tezlili states, I quote, "The expression hand-drawing animation has many advantages over the realistic, and whereas the computer graphic quest for realism is essentially about completedness." In this context, clearly the meaning of advantage over realistic does not mean hyperreality, super reality, or virtual reality. Rather, it closely associated with the human perception, how we see moving image, how human beings see the human image, which is constituted by complex dynamism of human sensitivities. Here, we are not talking about the digital aesthetics here, like her, such as AI actress. Somebody knows She's a Tilly Norwood, created by the production of a company, Particle 6, 100% generated AI actress. But I'm not talking about her. If the hand-drawn animation is capable to create an advantage over the realistic, then we need to consider how it be created. Yeah, okay. So here, Hayao Miyazaki animation perfectly exemplified the feature of the hand-drawn moving images. Miyazaki insisted that animation should be a deceptive means. In this sense, the world of animation is deception. So, but the human perception of animation is actual. So to create deception, Miyazaki further emphasized the significance of animators' bodily feelings, which help us to make sense of our world. So here, hence, the scene created by animator does not always make sense in terms of the law of the nature or the real world, not physics. So in this process, it is an important animator's capacity to be affected, embodied, subjectified to perceive. At the same time, they can create affective effect through externalized, objectified of things animator created. So Miyazaki believes that bodily perception orientation is inseparable, indispensable for understanding both the world we live and for drawing animation of moving images. Go back, sorry. Yeah, here. So here, I could be useful to elaborate the mechanism of bodily perception orientation, bodily perceptual orientation in the field of neuroscience. In the early 1990s, Garcimo Rizalotti and his co-workers discovered the mirror neuron. I quote, "They responded not only where the subject performed a given action, but also when the subject observed someone else performing that same action." So furthermore, thanks to mirror neuron system, we are able to immediately understand the intentions, expectation, or motivation of others without the need of any kinds of reasoning. So emotion-like actions are simultaneously shared. Sorry, I'm already in a mistake. Go back. So thanks to the way mirror neurons act as agent for sharing our perception, we can share with same and similar feelings, emotion, and bodily senses. So here, we can understand the mirror neurons' attribute lead to affective emotional attunement. The mirror neuron helps the appreciation of immediate intensive sensibilities, such as affect, between animators and audience through intersubjectivities. In this respect, animation becomes a medium or interface between the animator and the audience. Sorry. Yeah, affect. So this is the definition of affect. Here, affect can be referred to the communicative implication which arises in the initial stage of perception, that of, this is my quotation word I borrowed, and unstructured non-conscious experience and immediate intensive sensibilities which occur in the process of configuration of human perspective in seeing animation, moving images. So in the mirror neuron can help in share our perception which has affective embodied in attunement. This property could equally influence our perception of both GCI, computer graphics in imaginary, and hand-drawn animation. To elaborate the human and machine perception, it could be useful to scrutinize potential mechanism or system of perception in relation to cognition. Catherine Hales offers the notion of non-conscious cognition to unpack the complex interdisciplinary between consciousness and non-consciousness in neural recursivity in the brain. Hales illustrates non-conscious cognition has the ability to reduce the million of units of information and discerning patterns so that conscious producing does not suffer overwhelming overloaded information from complex sensory stimulus in the surrounding environment. So these processes involve scanning, choosing, editing information, and therefore interpretation of meaning can also be possible. In discussion of non-conscious cognition, the most significant point Hales made is that structural or functional similarities can be found in cognition in both biological organisms and the technical systems, such as computational media. Sorry. Affect. Okay, anyway. Some of the affect theorists discuss the assumption of a body as organism. Patrick Cross claims that the body are beyond the distinction between organic and non-organic, and matter should be conceived as informational. The brain, too, as a part of the body, is regarded as an informational entity. The relevant question it arises for today's talk is the measurability of a brain, more precisely measurability or immeasurability of affect in conscious, non-conscious cognition. In other words, can affect in the brain be represented by computable data? To consider this assumption, Hale's understanding of computational brain could be useful. She conceives that there is no scientific evidence to explain the brain manipulate symbol to accomplish its tasks. She also emphasized the similarity of computational media and the biological organisms in their meaning-making formation through sign exchange processes. For computational media, operations are driven by signs which are indexical rather than symbolic. That sign works to signify something to the cell, biological cell, in the biological organism too. This is why, in her view, biosemiotics is helpful. In effect, affective response can be created at the stage of non-conscious cognition. There can be process of meaning-making through the selection and the interpretation of a massive number of signs. But the selection is subjective orientation. Look funny, this jumped. Affect, perception. Yeah. Sorry. Cognize that. Right. So hence we can see that the biosemiotics supports the meaning-making process of the subjective view of the world. This suggests that biosemiotics approach is fundamentally different from the logic of digital. The biological meaning-making process cannot be represented by computational media, which seek for the greatest and at least difference. But the selection process in biosemiotics is not based on universal, but an exclusively subjective orientation. The logic of digital and computational media must operate in an environment to fulfill their programmed purpose. It is always programmed to make a decision which can anticipate further consequences and achieve a result through communication with the pre-given data. To recreate affective effect, the data set should be constituted by all the information which is abstracted through affect. In the real world, it is, however, not possible to generate a full set data in order to create affect as a result. Therefore, according to logic of digital, which is universal, it is nearly impossible to fulfill encode affect subjectively into sign. If we do not have a completed set for the data set of affect, it is therefore impossible to recreate perfect or absolute human perception. Hence, we can now understand the affective effect of moving image which are produced by the hand drawing of human animator could produce different quality and aesthetics from the affective effect of computational generation, since the constitution of a given database and the meaning-making process are different. Yeah. Sorry, I just couldn't sort of going to sequence of my slide. Okay, now, yeah. Although affect is not fully able to encode it by computational media, it is important not to forget that digital affective effects are always perceived by human perceivers. So hence, digital encoded affect image, if it's possible, will be again decoded through human perception. Ramachandran, neuroscientist, explains human perception from viewpoint of neuroscience. According to him, the neural activities and the network in the brain have a limited capacity. Therefore, they constantly select information of image for the restricted attentional resources. Brain multimodal neural activity are therefore selective. A neuroscientist, Stanidas Duan, also explained when we perceive objects, our neurons detect their contours, searching characteristic configurations such as the shape T and F. You can see the slide T and F. So these fragments of shapes are known as a non-accidental properties of visual science. So, of course, there are many ways in which the edges meet. They are invariant, but they factor to determine object shape. So according to Duan, I quote, our primate nervous system seems to have discovered this invariant, non-accidental property and used it to encode shape. Hence, it seems that we do not need perfect or full available information to reconstruct image of the object. We don't need full information. Yeah. So in this context, we need to address another interesting angle to better understand the human perception of images, with rich information and poor noise ratio. So John Paul explained, quote, realistic imaginary has a poor signal to noise ratio that can distract attention. Counterintuitive. Less is more. Less information and more noise enhance attention. Or more is less. More information and less noise is destructive for attention. This is because in the process of the brain complex dynamic neural system, neuron network activate can be more activated by ambiguities. It can be said that noise, which can include imperfectness, seems to be an important factor in activating the complex dynamic neural system in the brain. Eventually, the creative ambiguity of information processing in the neural system can enhance the views of imagination and meaning construction processes. Okay. This reminds us the Miyazaki's suggestive statement about noise or the gap. In terms of relationship between moving image and human perception, what is fascinating is that Miyazaki assumes that percolation is the holes in either side of the film strip could play a good produce a good quality of animation. So this is because percolation produces a tiny unintentional gap of the film strip in the projector. So this microsecond is an absence of information. That is noise, which is supposed not to carry any meaning. But these tiny and unintentional gaps act important factor in making animation lively. So therefore, Miyazaki is suspicious about super high definition technology. This is because affective of human perception is not always optimized by super high definition technology, which are supposed to be almost perfect, accurate replication of naturalistic vision. So to grasp moving image, the human perception doesn't need to have much information. It also does not acquire moving image in a machinery way, which captures a photographic real image in line with natural or physical law. So rather, Miyazaki emphasizes that animation should be created through the human perception-oriented design and calculation, which is created by his embodied craftsmanship and tacit knowledge.
I'm sorry, Ms. Tomoko, we have 5 minutes.
Okay, I will finish soon. So Catherine Hale reminds about the technological cognition are now so deeply entwined that is more accurate to say that interpenetrate one another. So Hale described these complex interactions between human and non-human cognizers as cognitive assemblage. So in her view, human and the technological system in cognitive assemblage are interconnected. We now live in a world which depends on the symbiotic relationship between human and the technological system. My discussion has highlighted the way in which the human perception of moving image can be viewed as just one specific case in vast array of cognitive assemblage. Now we have ChatGPT and DeepSeek in generate human-like conversational responses based on analysis through large language model with a massive trained data source. As we respond to ChatGPT within knowledge formation process, we would do well to remember that our experience with ChatGPT will be incorporated into our tacit knowledge. So recursivity means here is not just suggesting creating political and cultural bias. More importantly, potentially problematic implications changing our knowledge formation process. So here we need to urgently the new approach for serializing recursive information flow to consider how we can reformulate our understanding of the implication for knowledge formation practices in advanced digital computational system, computational era. Thank you very much. Sorry, time over.
Okay, thank you so much, Professor Tomoko. I think you gave us like the foundation, the baseline for like being talking about the ethical part of, because we are now living in the digital and world, that it is like understanding the meaning and how it affects our understand how information can be difficult. Yeah. Okay, thank you so much. And now we are moving to Prof. Zam Askandar. Yeah, and yes, you have 20 minutes, Prof. Zam. You want anywhere you want. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. It's nice to be back here again at Universitas Gadjah Mada. I have a long history of relationship with UGM. I've not been back here for many years though. Yeah, I'm surprised with all the development that's been going around. So when Dodi asked me to come over, I said, why not? Although I don't really understand the topic that he gave me, so I twisted it around to focus on something that I feel is not something that many people talk about, and then trying to connect that, with these the SDG goals. By the way, my name is Kamaru Zaman Askandar. I'm from University of Science Malaysia. People just call me Zam. And I'm, a peace educator. I've been in peace and conflict studies for many years. And I like talking to Indonesian students because I know they are always very active, asking questions, giving comments and all those things. So I hope we'll get some good questions and comments later on. And also, just a bit of my background, because I even if I teach at the university, I have half of my body outside campus, because I believe that when we do peace studies, it's not something that you should just sit in your office and write and read and write about peace and conflict resolution and all these things. You need to get your hands dirty. You need to go out, and if what can improve the situation outside and can help with the situation, go ahead. And I've always been a proponent of a scholar practitioner. You don't only study, but you also practice. You also practice. So you want to study peace. You have to be peaceful, and you try to apply also, the skills that you have outside. So for many years, I've been working on conflict situations around the region. A lot of transformative peace building work they have done in the region before, in Aceh, in southern Philippines, in Mindanao, and currently in southern Thailand, in Patani, southern Thailand. So that will be the focus of my presentation today, which is looking at how the SDG and SDG. I'm focusing on SDG 16, which is on promoting just, peaceful, and inclusive societies, but looking at it, and looking at it in the context of the peace process, in Patani, southern Thailand, because I work a lot with peace processes. In fact, at the moment, I'm advising the Malaysian facilitator who is responsible, for doing, the peace process in Patani, southern Thailand. Next slide, please. So just to start off, SDG 16, Peace, Justice, and Strong Institution. I copied this from their website, the UN website. Goal 16 is about promoting peaceful and inclusive societies, providing access to justice for all, and building effective, accountable, and inclusive institutions at all levels. People everywhere should be free of fear from all forms of violence and feel safe as they go about their lives, whatever their ethnicity, faith, or sexual orientation. So my question is that, when I'm starting to think about this topic, my question is that how do you achieve this in a situation of a complex, ongoing armed conflict? Because that's what southern Thailand or Patani is. It's an armed conflict. So how do you achieve this? And when we look at SDGs, people tend to look at it as an outcome. It's a target. But at the same time, we can question ourselves. Is it a target or is it the process in getting a target? So that's the question. I've been pondering as well. Because sometimes we feel that this is something that we want to achieve, but in achieving that, we are not actually implementing and applying the principles in that process. So that's the question that I want to pose in my presentation. Or is it both? We can decide at the end of the presentation. Next slide, please. So I'm not sure how many people know about the situation in southern Thailand. So let me just start by giving a brief background about what the situation in southern Thailand is. It's basically one of the longest running and active self-determination conflicts in the region. It has the same formula, or it has the same issues and context like the conflict in Aceh or the conflict in southern Philippines, in Mindanao, in Papua. It's a self-determination conflict, long history, happened many years ago, and then it's still ongoing. And then there are several groups in southern Thailand, Patani, they have been fighting for independence. You have groups like the Barisan Revolusi Nasional Melayu Patani, or the BRN, the Patani United Liberation Organization, MARA, or Majlis Shura Patani, and these are just some of the groups. There are a few other groups, but these are the more active ones, trying to further the cause of the Patani people in southern Thailand. So we have seen an intensification of the conflict, especially since January 2004, and since then there have been more than 7,700 casualties. And even now, there are daily shootings and bombings. Not daily, maybe every other day, but every week you will have incidents. Sometimes with casualties, sometimes with no casualties, but it is still ongoing. And the situation there is also very worrying because the martial law and emergency law are still there, and there are still a lot of impunity, for the actions that have been done by the military. For example, a few days ago, October 25th was the anniversary of the Takbai incident, and the Takbai incident basically, was something that happened in 2004. So this is a 21 years anniversary of the Takbai incident, where about 85 people, were killed, by the military when they were transferring them from a place called Takbai to Patani, by putting the bodies one on top of each other. Maybe you have heard about the case. And to this day, nobody has been arrested and nothing has been done to address, why this happened and justice, for the victims. And this is just an example of the cases, they are still ongoing. A lot of impunity for actions, a lot of counterinsurgency going on. And Malaysia has been the facilitator of this peace process since 2013. On off, depending on a number of issues we will discuss later. In 2013, we got a general consensus, which is basically a formal recognition of the parties. Because before this, the Thai government has always said that this is an internal issue and they do not recognize the liberation movements. They just see these people as armed terrorists and all those things and do not want to engage in dialogue. But since 2013, that was the first time that we have a situation where both sides sit together, try to find some kind of solution, and we came out with the 2013 general consensus. And Malaysia became the facilitator. And then the process went on from 2013 to 2015 involving MARA, or Majlis Shura Patani, and resumption of talks with the BRN, no longer with MARA, which was then sidelined in 2020. And a few rounds, difficult issues came out about security guarantee, safety, reduction of violence, and all those things. So I will explain later on, why there have been a lot of this the issue. New facilitator came in 2023, and then we move on, towards finding some kind of framework for peace, which happened in 2023 when we came out with the Joint Comprehensive Plan for Peace, JCPP, and then moving on to other issues like COHA, public consultation, and other things. And then new facilitator again in 2024 last year, but the process has been stagnant, not moving, not moving. So no improvement, in the peace process. Next. So this is just a picture of the formal process. You have the formal peacemaking process, and then I think students of peace will know when we say peacemaking, it is a track one process between the main actors, and these are photos of the track one actors. You have the facilitators sitting in between the two parties, between the Thai government and the BRN, Barisan Revolusi Nasional, except the photo on the other side, that one is Mara Patani, which is a coalition of liberation movements. You have the Patani United Liberation Organization, you have the Mujahidin, you have the Barisan Islam Pembebasan Patani, so a coalition of liberation movements. So many groups have been involved in the peace process with Malaysia as the facilitator. Okay, so next. This is just an example of the process. We came up with the outline for Joint Comprehensive Plan Towards Peace, JCPP, which was basically an innovation on its own, because of the on-off process, it takes a long time. It takes a long time. You always start with confidence-building measures, trust-building, and all those things. But then, how do we move forward? What are the kind of issues that we need to focus on, and what are the targets, that we want to go through? So this is basically a plan, for peace with, some steps that we have done, throughout the years. Next. But it's not been moving, and then we go to the challenges. Many challenges, basically. I'll just quickly go through this. You can read also up there. Challenges regarding the role of the third party, whether facilitator or mediator. The Thai government still sees this as an internal issue. They do not want mediator, with muscle, or mediator with power, so that limits the role that Malaysia can do. But at the same time, the Patani people, they want someone, with more muscle that can influence Bangkok on some of the things that they want to do. So the role of the third party, facilitator or mediator. And then the crowded nature of the peace process, which is basically, in peace studies people will know that anytime we have a peace process, there are many groups that want to come in and wanting to be involved in helping the process. But then sometimes, too many cooks will spoil the soup or the broth. So sometimes, you have difficulty with the Malaysians as well, because they say, let us do these things. And then there will be groups coming in from outside, the region, and some even from within the region. I think Indonesia also is interested in being part of this. But the Malaysia would say that, no, look, let us handle this thing. So, crowded nature of the process, you have the capacity and suitability of the third party. Because we need to ensure that whoever is sitting at the table will have the backing of not only the liberation movements, but of the people. They are doing this in the peace process, not only for themselves, but for the people. So, are they representative enough? And the problem is that, it comes to the third criteria, that the divisiveness of the Patani liberation movements, because there are many of these groups, and everybody wants to be at the table. And so that's why it's also crowded on the side of the parties. So you have not only the crowdedness, but also you have the capacity issues. Are they ready to be, in the peace process. And this is also important because people or groups do not want to be involved in a peace process if they feel that they are not confident of getting what they want. And they lack the confidence because they feel maybe they lack the capacity. Okay. So that's my job. My job is to increase the capacity, to make sure that when people sit at the table, they know what they want, they know how to get what they want, they are confident of getting what they want. Because if you don't instill that kind of confidence, then people go in there saying that, oh, it's no point. Even if we negotiate, even if we are involved in the dialogue, we are not getting what we want. Not only from the other side, but from our side. We are more comfortable in taking out weapons and be fighting. And then that's the door that they go through. So my job is to open as many doors as possible so that they can then be more confident in being part of a process. So they can get what they want from dialogue, not from an armed struggle. So and then the fourth one, inability of the Patani movements to do public consultation on the ground. Of course, because most of the members of the panel have warrants on their head, they cannot go back to the ground. Many of them are based in Malaysia. And that's also another reason why Malaysia has been the facilitator, because the leaders are in Malaysia and then it's easier for us to get in touch with them. And for a number of years also, there's some kind of protection, for these people in Malaysia. The feeling of insecurity among Patani civilians caused by the continuation of the punitive security laws, I mentioned this already, and the ongoing armed actions of the liberation movement. And this is something that affects the people, the Patani people from both sides. They are getting it from the military people because with the martial law and then the emergency law on this side. And from the other side, the liberation movements have also been doing actions targeted at the military and the security personnel, but the people are there. So they are also affected as well. Okay, next. And uncertainties related to the approach and outcome of the process, the goal, the process, what do they really want? That is something that whenever you do a peace process, that is something that you have to be sure that when you ask the people at the table, what is it that you want, they will answer you properly, because you need to be able to put things on the table. So because they need to be on the same page. One of the major problems of the peace process in Patani is that the parties are not on the same page. Because the Thai military, they want the ROV, or reduction of violence. To them, this is a security issue. If violence is reduced, then it's like their targets have been met. But then it doesn't solve the problem. It doesn't solve the problem. Because to the Patani people, this is a case of historical injustice that have been done for so many years, since the collapse of the Patani Sultanate in 1785. So they want justice. They want all these things. But the two sides are not on the same page, and that causes problem. Uncertainties and unpredictable nature of Thai politics. Unfortunately, there have been so many coups over the years. Every year you would have a new government comes in, sit there for a while, and then a new government will come in after election, and then a new coup, by the military. And every time that happened, the peace panel will change. And with the peace panel will change, you have different individuals sitting there. You have different targets, for the panel. You have different outlook. Okay. The only constant is the military. The military is always there. And the military, will make sure that the military's interests are always kept. But the government panel is always changing. How can you move forward? How can you move forward with the constant change, that has been going on? So, for example, at the moment, we have a new government in Thailand, in Bangkok. They have been appointed several months ago, because the previous government, was removed. And then they put in a new members of the panel with a new direction. And they are saying that, look, what we want is a new process. What we want is something new because we do not agree with what have been done by the previous panels. And basically, reducing all the things that we have done from 2013 up to now to nothing. When we talk about the JCPP, Joint Comprehensive Plan for Peace, the framework and all these things, they say they don't want. So what happened? So we have to start anew. And then a new process will also depend on how long the current government stays in power. Because if the current government, which they say they're going to do another election in 4 months' time, if a new government comes in and they change direction again, then possibly we have a new panel and a few direction again. So it's difficult, it's difficult. So for us in Malaysia, we're always being frustrated, with all these things. And also with the liberation movements, they will say, how can we trust? How can we trust the other side? Because they keep changing, everything. And then the point is that, if they lose the trust, they might not want to be at the table, and they will go back to picking up their weapons and intensify the conflict, on the ground. And that's what's been happening on the ground. Okay. In fact, this past few months, that's what's been happening as well. So quickly, challenge of connecting the table on the ground, connecting between peacemaking and peace building. Just maybe 2 more minutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. Or maybe 5?
2 minutes.
2, 3. Yeah. Next slide, please. Sustaining the gain and continuing the momentum. Okay, I've done that. So all these things. So what do we do? What do we do? There are many things that we need to resolve because we want peace, basically. So what about examples? We have looked at the Acehnese examples, we have looked at the Mindanao examples, but unfortunately there have also been problems with these other examples, simply because what happens after a peace agreement has been signed, it does not ensure that you will have peace, because what is important is the implementation of the agreement, the sincerity of the parties to implement the agreement. And then you have the human factor. For one person fighting a fight, trying to get whatever he or she or the group wants, once they get the power, things change. We see that in many cases. We see that in Aceh. We are seeing that in Mindanao. We see this happening. So we have to be careful, what we are asking for and what examples that we want to. So I will just go to the last slide, which is a conclusion. Next slide, please. Unless I can negotiate a few more minutes, but I don't think so. So in conclusion, I'll just read this. In order to achieve the goals of SDG 16 for Patani, these challenges to the peace processes, the one that I mentioned, have to be overcome. At the same time, these goals of justice, peaceful and strong institutions, and inclusivity of various affected stakeholders should be included as part of the guiding principles in the framework of the peace process. In short, the goals of SDG 16 should not be seen only as the desired goals or outcomes for Patani, but should also contribute to the framework for peace and be part of the process of achieving those outcomes. So that framework itself, we talked earlier about that JCPP, the framework for peace. It has to be, the goals have to be within that framework, and the elements, the targets and all these things have to be in that framework, which include matters like justice and peaceful and inclusivity and all those things. So don't wait until you sign an agreement. Before getting to the agreement, put those in the work, in the framework to get peace already. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you so much, Prof. Zam. Give her an applause. Yeah, I think Prof. Zam gave us the next step by having the ethical things, then how we can have put it that in the governance, how to make the peace process happen. So next we have Dr. Julia Sugandi, and I think you can explain who you are. I don't know. Because I forgot to explain who's Prof. Zam. I think it's better. Yeah, Dr. Julia Sugandi is a peace educator and with lots of experience, I think. And now she's representing the Center for. Sorry, I forgot the name. But yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Julia Sugandi. My background is anthropology and sociology. I graduated from Institute of Ethnology, University of Münster, Germany. Currently, I'm affiliated with Center for Transdisciplinary and Sustainability Sciences, IPB University, and also I'm part of the Governing Council of Future Earth, global coalitions of scientists, researchers, and innovators working on sustainability and promoting transdisciplinary research. So if any of you interested in exploring further about transdisciplinary research, please do visit our website, futureearth.org. Thank you. Okay, let's start our presentations. I have 20 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Let's take a closer look at the complex world we find ourselves in today. Our ecological system is collapsing. With the UN declaring a climate emergency and the IPCC confirming human activities have raised global temperatures, the Potsdam Institute warns that over 75% of Earth's support systems are at risk, calling for a combination of scientific and local wisdoms to safeguard the planet. The Global Crisis Risk Perception Survey of over 900 experts underscored the interconnectedness of declining optimism, geopolitical tensions, societal fragmentations, and environmental threats, stressing the importance of dialogue and collaborations to address complex global challenges ahead. The Palestinian Institute for Climate Strategy highlights the link between climate and ecological justice with the fight for liberations, asserting that the struggle for climate justice is intertwined with resistance against colonialism and exploitations, as evidenced by the dire consequences of genocide and ecocide in Gaza. The IPBES Nexus Assessment Report calls for urgent coordinated actions to address 5 interconnected global crises: biodiversity loss, climate change, food security, health and water scarcity, stressing that biodiversity degradations driven by globalization and economic pressures severely affects marginalized communities relying on natural resources, thus requiring a comprehensive strategy to ensure ecological integrity and social equity. An example of such a holistic approach in Asia is acupuncture, which treats the body and mind as interconnected systems, emphasizing that restoring our disrupted ecosystems requires a collective effort. Collaboration is key, but effective indicators are vital for tackling complex challenges. The Human Development Index, or HDI, is flawed, as it correlates higher progress with increased carbon footprints. Higher GDP also leads to a larger material footprints, promoting harmful choices. The UNDRR emphasized that natural disasters do not exist. Instead, poor decision-making results in disasters that disproportionately impact at-risk communities. The 2025 Donut Framework stresses relevant indicators to assess human needs within planetary limits, using 35 metrics from 2000 to 2022. Despite rising GDP, social deprivation and ecological overshoot remain, signaling the need for sustainable economic shifts. Wealthy nations are major contributors to ecological harm, underscoring the need for equitable solutions. The analysis advocates moving away from GDP growth to focus on human and environmental health. Measurement indicators are crucial, since the tools used shape our perceptions. We obtain what we choose to measure. In complex environment, a flexible developmental evaluation approach allows for real-time adaptations to changing circumstances, ultimately aiding in understanding and enhancing strategies rather than imposing rigid controls. Sorry. I'll give you a second to browse. Oops. I forgot to click. So you only saw the blank slide. Give you some moment to read it. James Scott's Seeing Like a State illuminates the gap between local practices and state theories. My research among the Hubula people in Papua shows that global development metrics often simplify social changes. The Hubula's resilience comes from their epistemic sovereignty. defining their own concept of dignity, progress, and well-being. Meaningful social change requires development policies that honor the Hubula's belief instead of imposing Western ideals. This one-size-fits-all approach stems from a colonial mindset, causing exclusion and stigma. In contrast, ethno-development addresses power dynamics and values culture construction, fostering individual engagement with personal values. The pluriversal context features the interconnectedness of life and diverse pathways to well-being, rooted in various relationships, especially ecological ones, where human interactions with nature can be seen through instrumental values that regard nature as a resource, or intrinsic values that honor nature's right beyond human assessment, while relational values encompass living with nature in a way that respects its influence on identity and living as nature, which embodies radical empathy for nature as a fundamental part of human life. Click. Territories of life managed by indigenous peoples and local communities, or IPLCs, reflect their cultural identity and livelihoods, as seen in the cultivations of sweet potato in the mountains and sagu in South Papua, emphasizing food sovereignty and diverse value and diverse nature valuations. Technical. Okay. The relationship between indigenous people and their lands is multifaceted, including ethnoecology, cosmology, political significance, shaped by ancestral path, and intrinsic, instrumental, and relational values. Scientists highlight the importance of territories of life for sustainability, yet development policies often ignore this. Ecological links are reduced to mere economic values through commodifications. In 2020, Papua's forests made up 78% of its land, but by 2024, 13.6 million hectares were lost, raising carbon dioxide emissions, with Merauke experiencing the greatest loss. Deforestation in Merauke, South Papua, reflects a global development model tied to military expansions, prioritizing palm oil and rice over indigenous rights and sago farming. These reveal development problems that endanger ecological integrity and social justice. Ignoring regeneration principles disregards both human rights and the rights of nature. The loss of ancestral land due to deforestation leads to severe consequences, including diminished biocultural wealth, indigenous knowledge, food security, crop diversity, livelihood, sacred site, cultural identity, and governance. The decline of biocultural diversity due to deforestation for food security adversely affects Earth's sustainability. Rockstrom's recent article explored how to nourish the world without harming the planet. Addressing the global food system's significant greenhouse gas emissions requires a complete transition from fossil fuels, increased afforestation, and system-wide changes that support farmers while preserving biodiversity. Development initiatives aimed at linear economic growth, like those in Merauke, reveal the underlying factors of biodiversity decline identified by IPBES in 2024, including unequal power and wealth distributions and a focus on short-term profits, while the absence of regenerative principles in deforestation stems from dominating relationships that disconnect people from nature, prompting the need for transformative shift against such dominance. We need to transition away from degenerative development, which stems from a degenerative culture and the construction of technical systems, while leaving the foundational ecological relationships rooted in dominations and instrumental values. We must move beyond simply sustainability, which only avoids harm, to embrace regenerative development that foster a culture of regenerations and design living system, promoting multi-species equality and justice, harmonizing human actions with nature. Modern political choices prioritize economic factors over aesthetic, ecological, and spiritual values, worsening social and environmental issues, while local communities play a crucial role in maintaining biodiversity and cultural heritage through their biocultural ethics and involvement, emphasizing the importance of the relationship between ecosystems, human behavior, and co-inhabitants in preserving diversity. Decolonizing knowledge productions entails a critical re-evaluation of knowledge creations, disseminations, and valuations, particularly questioning the dominance of Western paradigms and advocating for the inclusions of diverse, context-sensitive insight from local community members, including marginalized groups, in policy development for improved well-being, equity, and sustainability. Transformative change is achieved by addressing perspective, governance, and practices, with transdisciplinary playing a key role by merging various knowledge systems for deep learning on core issues. This collaborative approach necessitates humility, empathy, openness, and critical self-reflections, viewing knowledge integrations as a relational process essential for meaningful dialogue among different knowledge systems. The decolonization of knowledge productions fosters value-centered policies that incorporate diverse values to address social and economic inequalities. These policies draw from various knowledge systems and traditions, underlining the importance of diverse values for balance. They focus on sustainability in decision-making and explore the link between justice, equality, and sustainability. They aim to confront justice and power imbalances while rethinking development and quality of life, considering human nature interactions. We cannot attain harmony among humanity unless we establish peace and fairness within a broader context of existence. Regenerative development rooted in values-driven policies fosters a systemic change that embodies planetary justice, which extends beyond borders, encompasses right for all living beings, and considers the well-being of future generations. To achieve planetary justice, we must adopt transformation principles based on ethical framework, prioritizing the biosphere, encourage peace and nonviolence through collective actions, support convivialism over individualism in economics, and advocates for realistic cosmopolitanism to ensure shared global rights and responsibilities in ethical market regulations. Oh, I don't think it's the text. You can read the text white in white. Okay, last slide. I wrap up these presentations by inviting everyone to reflect. I share Graeber's view that caregiving work, including health, education, and social support, is essential, and that a society's real advancement can be gauged by its capacity to foster these pursuits, rather than solely by its economic output. To echo Hickel, ultimately what we refer to as the economy represents our material connections with one another and with the broader living ecosystems. We need to consider, how do we envision that connections? Should it be centered around dominations and exploitations? Or should it focus on reciprocity and care? How does radical empathy influence the foundations for justice, equality, and sustainability, not only for humans, but for all living beings on our planet? Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Dr. Julia. And I think Dr. Julia bring us to the understanding or the consciousness about when we talk about peace, it's not just between people, but we need to think like in a more comprehensive, like thinking about the planetary justice as well. Okay, thank you. We move to the last presenter of today, Dr. Chris Elisara. Dr. Chris Elisara is representing the Faithful Cities, and he's a forefront innovative urban development initiatives. Okay, time is yours, 20 minutes, Doctor.
Thank you. Can you do the slides for me? I'll give you the cues as we do that. So, as we navigate the future, cities stand at the crossroads of resilience, justice, and peace. This presentation explores with big gaps, how faith communities engage with urban development and currently engage with communities, government, policy, and ethical frameworks for a more peaceful and sustainable urban world. I lead a multi-faith NGO called Faith for Cities. And within my own faith tradition, which is Christian, Protestant, evangelical, I work for the World Evangelical Alliance. The WEA is the second largest historic Christian organization in the world, with 600 plus million members and 160 national alliances. That's 160 countries that have alliances. So there is a Indonesian National Alliance of the WEA, a Malaysian National Alliance of the WEA, a Japanese alliance of the WEA as well. So 160 national alliances. And I am the special envoy for sustainability, climate, and cities. And I'll just say a word. In my spiritual tradition, there is a scripture that is important to the work that I do, where God implores the community in exile in Babylon to seek the justice, the well-being of the city. Because in its well-being, you will find your well-being. There's a relationship between people of faith exercising their influence for well-being, flourishing, and justice. When we all experience it, we all experience it. People of faith too. So that verse from Jeremiah 29 is one of the animating verses that I use in my work as a special envoy for environment, climate, and cities. So why am I making a pivot from classic environmental concerns to cities? And why do I suggest that you should consider adding cities to your environmental concerns too? SDG 11, as you know, Sustainable Cities and Communities, is the explicit urban goal of the 2030 Agenda. But 11 of the SDGs include urban-specific targets, housing targets, water targets, transportation targets, energy targets, inequality, and more. So, and actually, all 17 SDGs depend on how cities grow, are governed, and how they share their resources. By 2050, 70, 75, 73% of humanity will live in cities. So cities are where global goals become local realities, test beds for equality, equity, climate action, and human flourishing. So that's why I'm pivoting to cities, speaking about the environment. Next slide. Cities are where global challenges meet local realities, and faith communities live in that intersection. So to build resilient cities and global peace, we must engage networks already trusted by people, which among those trusted relationships are faith communities. It's one of many, so we need to engage them. Now, we know that there's tremendous challenges in cities. Here's a list. Next slide. We have 318 million homeless in cities. We have 1.1 billion living in slums or informal settlements. We need to build 96,000 homes a week to house people. And to give you another perspective, these are the challenges. Currently we have 43 cities of 10 million or more people. Within the next 20 to 30 years, we will have 250 cities of 10 million or more people. That is a tremendous challenge, a tremendous challenge. My question is, are we ready for that? And as people of faith, are we able to contribute to responding to that challenge? What this means, by the way, is that we need to build an equivalent of a city for 1 million people every week for the next 25 to 50 years. 1 million people we need to build for a week. So that's the challenge we have. So next slide is, that's tremendous, but I think cities are also the most effective scale at which faith communities can engage societies. Working at a national scale is very difficult and complex to effect change. It's hard. Governments have difficulty working at the national scale. You can do a lot of good work at the grassroots local level, a lot of good work, but you'll often bump up to policy problems, things that you really can't change at the local level, though you can make a big difference in people's lives. But at the best scale is cities. So you can do a national strategy through cities. So I'm not saying don't do national work. I'm not saying not do grassroots work, but I'm saying work at the scale of complexity in which we can make a big influence, and that's through cities. And faiths can work at cities. Next slide. So here are some reasons why faith operating and exercising themselves in cities is important. Because we can make a difference in those cities. People of faith are 84% of people living in cities. We can do a lot if we understand that. We understand the local conditions very well. We can advocate for people because we know their needs. Faith actors bring moral vision and motivation. I am very motivated because of my faith. I don't give up easily. I have some social credibility and some influence. And I have tangible assets. Faiths have land. They have buildings. The Catholic Church is the largest property owner in the world. It can do a lot with its land if it thinks about its land in particular types of ways for the good of the city. We also have capital and assets that we can invest. So faiths can shape the future of urban development quite significantly if we think about it. So I'm going to give you just a couple of case studies just to explain this from my tradition. As I started off, I have big gaps. And I hope that you can fill some of these gaps when we have a conversation in my 2 sessions outside of this, where you can bring your experience, your faith, your background, your religion to fill some of those gaps in the conversation. So these are just examples from my tradition. The Cathedral District in Jacksonville, Florida is one of those. Next slide. And the next slide. Jacksonville, Florida, 5 churches have come together to work together. They have 36 blocks. They are all different Protestant traditions, and they have said, we want to be a blessing. We want to make a difference for the common good in Jacksonville, Florida. So they put a plan together. And with that plan, they are anchoring down basically a faith-based investment district for investing because they're anchor institutions, housing, arts, and other types of things. And then with that plan, others can say, hey, I want to invest in that district as well because they're there, they've got a plan, and I'm going to do some housing. I'm going to do some small businesses. I'm going to do education so the universities come back. So this is an example of how faiths, when they organize themselves, can make an impact in a city. $36 million of impact, a lot of affordable housing, retail, and so on. Here's another example, the halo effect. The halo effect is, what is the economic impact of Christian churches in place? If you count up the value of all the work that they do for education, mental health, addiction recovery, food, and so on, there's a number to that, right? What is that number? It's been studied. Next slide, sorry. I'm not doing slides very well. Halo effect. Next one. Okay. On average, in these 12 congregations in Philadelphia, it was $4.3 million. In North Carolina, it's $735,000 per congregation. That's a lot of economic impact. And it's also repeated in Toronto, in Ontario. But what this means actually is if you took out of the city a church acting in place with all those services, to replace those services with government services, it would cost 4 times the amount. It would cost the government 4 times the cost for the church to do that type of work. That's a policy and economic impact that a church has. We can scale that and do better. So that's another example of churches, religious organizations, bring a blessing to the city. Now, the World Economic Forum understands this. They are bringing together business leaders in the private sector and faiths to act through their influences in the economic sphere. So there's a report, you can read it, Faith in Action, Religion, Spirituality, and the Poly Crisis. So how is faith and business responding? And a lot of this is in the context of cities. And I was just at the Urban Transformation Summit by the World Economic Forum in San Francisco. So the World Economic Forum is getting on board, understanding the impact of faiths in the context of cities for doing good. Next slide. We do work as churches in multiple different ways. You understand the way you do it as a congregation, right? As a church gathered, we have property, we can do programs, and we can do advocacy for policies. Next slide. But when an individual person leaves, that is a person of faith, but they're got a professional vocation in architecture, planning, development, they can exercise that for the common good as well. So faith gets infused not just where you think faith is, but also in other places where you don't think faith is, because people are operating from their faith perspective. The person that I would say who does this, in my mind, is an exemplar, is a guy called Jose Plesnik, who was the architect who made the city of Ljubljana what it is today, by walking from his house behind the church to his office in Ljubljana and say, what can I do as an architect to make Ljubljana better? He designed the market, the bridges, the weir, linear parks, and he, in his profession as a person living out his faith, made Ljubljana a UNESCO heritage site for human-centered design, coming from his faith as a professional. Next slide. So, my question is, these are all Christian examples, but what are other faith traditions doing? I would love to know as a person who leads Faith for Cities, because it's multi-faith. So what are other faiths doing? Who, why, how, what are the impacts, what are the lessons learned? Let's converse and learn together how, as people of faith, we can have be a blessing and a contributor to the well-being of people in place. So very quickly, I'm going to talk about, next slide, Faith for Cities, which I've just mentioned. Faith for Cities ensures faith is not a bystander, but a co-creator of peaceful and flourishing cities. We work at addressing urban challenges with a lens of faith and a spirit of collaboration. Faith communities, with their extensive networks and ethical, social, economic, cultural, and spiritual influence, are poised to contribute innovative solutions. Faith for Cities is a network of religious organizations and leaders who seek to understand our common urban challenges while harnessing the potential and capacities of faith communities toward actionable, impactful urban development initiatives. The focus is not just discerning the needs, but contributing solutions. Turning intellectual and research gaze of religious academic institutions towards cities and fostering a multi-faith ecosystem that is equipped and committed to building thriving cities for all. And next slide. We have an opportunity to do this as people of faith in a global conversation every 2 years at the World Urban Forum, hosted by UN Habitat, where the world's leading thinkers and activists come together, and governments, to work on urban development. We can be at the table at the next World Urban Forum next year in Baku at the second Faith Pavilion. Next slide. So I'm inviting you to come to two conversations tomorrow. Well, one's right after this and one tomorrow. Next slide. To help design and participate in co-creating the Faith Pavilion at the World Urban Forum with Faith for Cities, with your tradition, with your knowledge, with your networks. Last slide. That's where it's at. It's kind of like down 2 floors down, and it's in the back through the ice. What's that? Through on the second floor. Come and be a part of the conversation as we plan the Faith Pavilion for next year. Last slide. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Arisara. Okay, I would like to sum up all the presentation from our main speakers. This is what I learned, that ethical framework become like the foundation for us to contribute to peace regardless our field of work, since it affects the decision that we make. Faith become one of the aspects which can help us to keep our ethics, especially in our current world, where the digital world becomes stronger in affecting our lives. Our decision then should not be based on short-term goodness, but we need to think about the sustainability of our planet, since our planet is not just for us, but also for our future generation. So I would like to invite, if you have any question, I think 3 questions, 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, and then later on we have the 4th one. Please say your name and to whom that you want to address your question.
Yes, thank you, Dr. Wibowo. My name is Dr. Nick Tubia. I'm from Ateneo de Manila University. I think I'm the only Filipino in the room. Am I? Oh, I have someone over in the back. Hi, kababayan. Hello. I'd like to address this question to Dr. Tomoko. I felt your presentation was very different from the subject matter of all presentations today, and many of the talks that I've listened in on today, or the abstracts that I read. No, you had me at Miyazaki, by the way. I thought it was very, very interesting, the approach, and I think the concept of noise was something that really resonated with me in your talk. No, thinking about many of the subjects that our other distinguished speakers had brought up today. These are matters that I've researched myself also. In many ways, it touches on my work, and I'd probably say it's Zam's field of work in peace building, where I've done a lot of research and a lot of crunching. No? And something really interesting occurred to me while listening to your presentation, Dr. Tomoko, and that is the symbiosis that you talk about between human beings and the technology that we use now is something that's really big in conversations lately about how we use AI. And I know that many of these students here, many of the professors who are present today, we also use AI. And for very, very complex questions and situations like all these peace processes that we deal with in Zam's presentation, for example. I've crunched so many things together, trying to understand, is there an insight that can be gained? And when I look back at some of your abstracts that I found online, no, relating to noise and semiotics, biosemiotics, I realized that there might be a limit to the way that we're able to really comprehend all this knowledge that's in front of us. I felt Yulia's presentation, for example. Hands down, you know, we talk about a lot of these topics, and it's almost overwhelming. all the things that we have to think about in order to make sense of the problems that we're trying to solve. And I wonder, Dr. Tomoko, if taking from your presentation on this disconnect now between what we're able to process as human beings, no, and the wealth of information that exists out there, and of course our will to solve problems, how would you frame, for example, the approach to the different disciplines that were presented today in relation to the way that you see this disconnect and the symbiosis that we now rely on between human beings, researchers, development workers, and technology, especially AI?
Okay. Okay. Thank you. I think, yeah. Or can we just collect the question first? Okay. The second one, please.
I'm sorry if I'm a little bit greedy because I'm going to ask for all the presenters.
Okay.
Yeah. So my name is Adhani Junia Sharemham from Universitas Gadjah Mada. I'm going to ask Dr. Tamari. In your conclusion, you said that about the implications for knowledge formation with this AI and the moving image made by AI right now. Now I see that there are many moving images are created with AI, and they look so realistic. Even there is a social media account now try to simulating or making like simulacra of the history of Indonesia, Indonesian age in the before it is Indonesia, like in Nusantara, some kingdoms before it is Indonesia now, and I see that this isn't it like knowledge formation, and the knowledge formation is only based on the mind of the person who write the prompts in the AI. Then they simulate all the things, and maybe my question is like, how do you see this kind of implications for knowledge information that is being simulated by certain people or certain persons, maybe one or two persons who try to use their knowledge on, which is probably also limited, and they want to formate the knowledge. How you see the implication? Whether it is, do you think it is an advance or a backlash instead? And for Professor Kamarul-Zaman, a disclaimer first from me: I'm not a student of peace, so my understanding about peace and how the peace is made is limited. But I'm curious about the Malaysia involvement in Patani conflicts. Is it complicated? Because in my very limited understanding, but the race of the Patani, the people of Patani, mostly are Melayu or Malay, right? So if the the Malaysia government involvement there, doesn't it like the people will have like some suspicion? Like, is there any like agenda behind this? Like how the Indonesians at that time in 1998 suspected the Australian government involvement in the referendum of Timor-Leste, something like that. That's my question for Professor Kamarul-Zaman. Another one for Professor Sugandi. I want to know what do you mean, or your understanding about the realistic cosmopolitanism when you suggest us to have this kind of, we need to have this realistic cosmopolitanism. What do you mean with this? I want to know, I want to understand what the meaning behind it, because it's very simple box there. Because if I'm not mistaken, since Immanuel Kant time when he suggested cosmopolitanism until recently, it seems there is the scholars are not in one voice in addressing cosmopolitanism. So I want to know about what do you understand, I'm so sorry, cosmopolitanism in your opinion. And the last one for Professor Alisara, I want you to please enlighten me with the term of global challenges that you mentioned. I'm afraid that I missed one or two things from your presentation, from your whole presentation, because of my own limitations. So I want to understand, what do you mean with the term global challenges? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The third one, I think. Okay.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good evening. My name is Muhammad Hanif Ramadhani and I'm from Magister of National Resilience. I want to ask to Mr. Kamarul Zaman. I'm really interested in solving conflict between nations and also between it on itself, knowing the fact that in ASEAN we have a lot of unfortunate conflict like Myanmar civil war, and the second conflict is unfortunately about Thailand and Cambodia, and we have third conflict, like for example in Indonesia we have separatism in Papua. My question is, can all of that conflict being solved, knowing the fact that there is great power play like China and US in this conflict? Because one of my professors say that ASEAN country love to ceremonial thing, but forget about the real thing. That's my question to Mr. Kamarul Zaman. And I have another question to Mr. Dr. Chris Alisara about building pavilion faith, if I'm not wrong. In Indonesia, we believe, we acknowledge Sikh religion, but unfortunately, let's be honest, in real life, we still have really antagonizing each other religion. For example, in West Java, we have an example when unfortunately Muslim and Christian community could not live happily each other. So, can your idea of pet pavilion be implemented even in this country that acknowledge Sikh religion, that acknowledge ketuhanan yang Maha Esa in our first sila, but in reality, not really that beautiful. That's it.
Okay, thank you. I think the last one from here.
Okay, good afternoon. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Okay, my name is Medina Sania Subagja and I am from UGM. So I want to ask Dr. Yulia, in order to fulfill social welfare here in Indonesia as a developing country, there's a lot of, food estate in order to make a food security, but because of this PSN or National Strategic Project, there's a lot of land function that disrupt, and also it could disrupt biodiversity on this land. So what I want to ask is how to balance economic, social welfare, and also ecological sustainability through policy for developing country as Indonesia, which we has a major obstacle in social welfare and also economic aspect. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so each of you has 2 questions, and I think we can start with Professor Tamari. I think, but also because we have a very limited time, so maybe each of you maybe have a very short. And I mean, because all the questions need actually a very elaborative answer. But maybe we can 3 minutes, maybe.
Right,
thank you.
Okay, could you just the question first, could you just repeat, or clarify your question to me?
How would you apply your discussion to the complex problems that the other presenters have discussed, and try to use your framework on noise and symbiosis and biosemiotics?
Right. It's quite sort of difficult question to me in the method, but to be honest, I really didn't know much about the sort of peace building process, but I know a little bit about environmentalism, a little bit about the city. But it's like a sort of, when I paper is kind of fundamental issue about knowledge formation. So therefore, if you think about knowledge formation, also related to second question, Shalof, asked me about, how sort of today's ChatGPT is now everybody using, but problem is large language models now you cannot identify which is fake, which is the truth. So people are talking about the post-truth era nowadays. And also what the problem is, just yesterday I had a conversation with one of a colleague, there used to be a human being used a tool, but now human beings are used by tools. Obviously surveillance issues, you are unconsciously monitored everything, your identity, your sort of lifestyle, your value of life, so to sucked in the mega tech companies. So this is the things we have to aware of. This is also related to sort of colonization process, not just only physical politics, but our mental state, mental state politics. So I think about if you think about the knowledge formation, I think all the people in here, sitting here, is actually try to contribute to knowledge formation. So this maybe, we can share, one of a point. Yeah. So I think Sharaf, partly I answered already, but this is a really difficult question to answer because I think day by day updated, as you know, like this technology is like a rocket, sort of super speed to developing every day. So, and also what's the problem is, technology is developed so faster than our human beings, that sort of our biological body cannot sort of catch up. This is the problem. But I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have clear answer. And also, another thing is my papers, one of the keywords is recursivity. Recursivity means if you're using ChatGPT and you used, unconsciously fake news, this is, again, this your paper or your, essay back to metadata. So therefore, increasing create fake data. So this is a sort of, come back, what it means, recursivity, always come back to you. So circulation and increase proliferation knowledge. Okay?
Thank you, Dr. Professor Tomoko. Closer? Yeah.
Okay. My presentation, can you put the last slide on my presentation? Okay. So while he's doing that, first, Malaysia's role in Patani. You have to look at the history of the conflict of Patani. In 1786, long story, 1786, the Sultanate of Patani collapsed. No, not the one with the book. The one with the book. Move back. Yeah, this one. Okay, just put it there. In 1786, the Sultanate of Patani collapsed, and then the Siam Kingdom overcame the area. Okay, then in 1909, the London Treaty divided this area of the Sultanate of Patani, and the Siam Kingdom got the upper half, the British or colonial government got the lower half. So basically, you have the same people divided, by the two colonial powers at that time, the Siam and British. And then when Malaysia became independent in 1957, those Patani people that belonged to that lower half of that sultanate became citizens of Malaya, then Malaysia. Okay, so for that reason, there are many thousands of Patani people living in Malaysia. The top half of, top east half of Malaysia, basically all descendants of the Patani Sultanate. So when Malaysia was invited to become the facilitator in 2013, it was the acknowledgement that because Malaysia, this is Malaysia's territory, and a lot of these people are living in Malaysia's territory. We have influence over the Patani people living in Malaysia. So in any kind of peace process, a third party has to be invited, and Malaysia was invited by the Thai government in acknowledgement that the liberation movement, the leaders, everyone are in Malaysia. You know, so it's easier for Malaysia to persuade and influence them to be part of the process. And then, secondly, in regards to the other questions about those other conflicts in Southeast Asia, I mean, resolving conflict, I mean, it depends on what you want, basically. It depends on the political will. Even if, you know, you have all kinds of formula and stuff, you know, if the parties involved do not want to resolve the conflict, you will not resolve the conflict. It depends on your own, you know, national interest. So, for example, you know, in Myanmar, you know, it depends on the political will of the Myanmarese government, you know, whether it wants to resolve the conflict or it wants to preserve its own, you know, power. You know, so no lack of political will. You look at all the other conflicts around the region, it's the same thing. You know, there is always lack of resolve, lack of political will, and then to resolve conflict, you also need a balance between your own national interest and the interests of everyone, or the interests of all the other parties. And in many cases, people just focus on their own national interests. Unfortunately, in Cambodia, Thailand, the same thing. In Indonesia, in Papua, the same thing. I don't want to mention Papua too much. I'm here in Yogyakarta. I want to go back safely to Malaysia, you know, in the next few days, you know. But, you know, political will and balance. Sometimes people say that they want to resolve, but if they don't have that will, then it's not going to happen. In terms of ASEAN countries, you know, there's also another issue, you know, another topic, and it's going to take a long time to discuss that, because if you look at the ASEAN mechanism, there are all sorts of agencies and bodies and provisions to resolve conflict, both internally as well as externally between the countries. But again, lack of political will, you know, lack of resolve between the ASEAN countries. And then lastly, you want all the answers I cannot give you now, please refer to my book. This is promotion of it. Peace and Conflict Transformation in Southeast Asia. It's published by the SHAPE, which is a program on supporting human rights and peace education in Southeast Asia. Look at the website, you can download the book for free. And all our publications on human rights and peace and all those things, you know, you just download for free. No need to pay anything. If you have difficulties, you email me, I will send you the books also. Okay, thank you.
Also, you can join the classes in our program, Master Program in Peace and Conflict Resolution. Okay, Dr. Julia.
Thank you. I think those two questions are closely related, so I can also answer within one answer. So, the definition of realistic cosmopolitanism that mentions in my presentation is actually adopted from the Homeland Earth Manifesto, written by transdisciplinary thinkers like Nicholas Q, Edgar Morin, and such. So, the literal definitions of realistic cosmopolitanism is shared political rights and responsibility that transcend national borders with the goal of achieving ethical regulations of global markets. So that's like really literal definitions. But from my perspective, and I think it's also related to your second questions, is to facilitate these paradigms, that we have these three different paradigms: one world paradigm, multipolar world paradigm, and pluriverse paradigms. It's, if you already Arturo Escobar, yeah? One world paradigms, it means that it's one singular paradigm, such as the progress defined by model financial, like World Bank, IMF, and so on and so forth. Multipolar is also standardization, but competitions between different organizations that set up the standard. But pluriverse world is what you discuss. It's emerging properties from each of the context. It's more organic change, so that we try to facilitate. So I think we need to facilitate from one world, we still know, and the cost of one world paradigm is really huge because of also different kind of indicators. If we still use the indicators really linear, like one world, like only linear growth, then the cost is so high. There's a difference between food security, food assets, and food sovereignty, because food sovereignty is also emerging property deriving from the context. And so also different kind of index. If you talk about food sovereignty, meaning that you talk about biocultural diversity, not only so the interconnectedness, the linkages between people, nature, and also cultures. Okay, so how to balance that in the development policies? There are three different kind of values. And IPBES mentions about this. The core of the sustainability is the sustainability aligned values. So that's the core. So what are those three different kind of values that needs to be facilitated in any context? The first is instrumental values, is the benefits, our relational ecology is based on the benefit. The second, intrinsic values, it means that all of the entities within the ecosystem, they have all the same rights. We have the rights, animal have the rights, plant have the rights, that intrinsic values. The third is relational values, if we try to build relation outside the instrumental values. So in any context, if you would like to intervene any context, if you would like also to push this to facilitate the emerging of planetary justice, we need to ensure that there are three different values, not one values that dominates it in the context. So if it's only instrumental values, that the values is not balanced. So we need to make sure that sustainability aligned values are there in any context. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Chris for the last. Yeah.
I'll be very quick.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to point you to two things. One is, when it comes to urban crises, there is plenty of information that's out there. If you go to UN Habitat, you can, and the page that I was drawing from, that's from the 2025 report. And you can drill down into the crises. But I will say that there is a new paradigm that's kind of recent regarding crises, and that we've gone from that there's crises to there's a polycrisis, multiple crises that cascade on each other. And now there's talk about a meta-crisis. That is a crisis of crises. So it's deeper crises that are economic, spiritual, cultural, that are underlying and connecting to all the other crises. So the meta-crises is something I'll put out for you to look at, because I'll also mention a response to the meta-crises, these deep, interconnected crises, is a new kind of way of approaching the SDGs, adding to the SDGs the IDGs, the Inner Development Goals. So the Inner Development Goals are ways in which we can learn to respond to the meta-crises through research-backed understandings that guide us to change ourselves, that we develop the capacity, the values, the abilities for inner transformation to respond to the meta-crises. This is something that is happening. So look up the Inner Development Goals. Yeah, idg.com. And then start to kick around. And that is also the interconnection between faith and personal transformation. We have to transform whatever way we can to solve these crises. And there is an overlap and compatibility and with faith.
Okay, thank you so much. And please give a round of applause for all the main speakers. Oh, I'm so sorry that we take like 30 minutes for additional time for our program. But yeah, again, thank you so much for all the main speakers. And tomorrow we still have many interesting panels. And yeah, have a good rest for today and see you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dodi Wibowo. Please give a round of applause to the moderator. Thank you so very much for such an inspiring session. And of course, please stay on stage for all speakers and moderator for the token or souvenir presents by our vice head of the organizing committee of IGSSCI. We kindly invite Dr. Leonard Epafras to come forward and to present the souvenirs to all speakers and moderator. First, to Professor Tomoko Tamari. Thank you so very much, Professor Tomoko Tamari. And next speaker is Dr. Yulia Sugandi. Dr. Yulia Sugandi, we would like to say thank you for all the participation of main speakers today. And the next token of appreciation is for Professor Dr. Kamarul Zaman Askandar. Thank you for your time, for your efforts, and for your valuable contribution. And next to Professor Dr. Kamarul Zaman Askandar. And the moderator. For Dr. Chris Elisara. Dr. Chris Elisara. Sorry, we missed one speaker. And lastly, our moderator, Mr. Dodi Wibowo. Yeah, right. And after the souvenir session, please have some photo with all speakers, please at the center stand. Okay, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause once again to our speakers of the panel 2 discussion of the IGSSCI 2025. Thank you, Dr. Leo, and thank you for all speakers and moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the end of today's session, the first day of the IGSSCI 2025. And it has been a full day of insightful discussion. And on behalf of the organizing committee, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to everyone, to the keynote, and all speakers, moderator, and all participants here. Thank you so very much for your attendance here until this afternoon going to evening. And we hope that discussion will be fruitful for all of you, and we inform you some announcement that we will start the next session tomorrow at Wednesday, November 5, 2025 at 8:30 p.m. for the panel 3, and the registration time is at 7:30 a.m. So please come back here at 7:30 a.m. to register, and please come enter the room at 8:30 to start the panel 3. Ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a pleasant rest of the day and see you again tomorrow. Once again, thank you for your participation for today and have a rest day. Thank you. Selamat sore. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Baik Bapak Ibu, dengan demikian maka berakhir sudah acara kita di hari pertama IGSSCI 2025. Kami informasikan sekali lagi Bapak Ibu, besok pagi akan dimulai pada pukul 8.30 untuk panel 3, dan diinformasikan kepada Bapak Ibu untuk registrasi dimulai pada pukul 7.30 di meja registrasi depan. Silahkan Bapak Ibu kembali lagi besok pagi, sekali lagi kami informasikan pada pukul 7.30 untuk registrasi dan 8.30 untuk memulai acara panel sesi 3. Terima kasih atas perhatiannya.